in your lap in months, and even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth partying with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm going to keep ticking. But no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason DiRienzo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, everyone. Let's all stop what we're doing right now and take a moment. That felt good, huh? Just like that, we had a nice, special sort of moment together. Of course, they don't all need to be quiet moments to be special. They could be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. Sounds like somebody agrees. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Today, call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
It's Meals on Wheels. 1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is you over 30 years ago.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And this is your mom when you drive her back from therapy.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Roles change without us noticing, and in your new role, we help you help. AARP gives you the information to help care for your mom so that you can have patience with her, just like she did with you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving or call 1-877-333-5885 to get practical health and wellness tips to provide even better care for your loved one.
Are we there yet?
Remember, visit aarp.org/caregiving. AARP, we help you help. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
The Lakers have a new coach in LA. Yes, they do. Rich Paul says that drafting Bronny doesn't mean LeBron will go to your team. And the Pelicans say that Brandon Ingram is available to be traded, and much more as the Yankees, as everything is going on in sports. And we will get into it here on the Sports Loudmouth. Doc Rivers is going to have Damian Lillard run very fast out of town. Does he help them win? You're under 500. Aaron Judge helps the Yankees win. You're paying the player $300 million. You better be sure that guy's going to help you get over the hump. For some reason, this guy is completely lost on listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Harold Marks, my co-host. He's up high, and I got to get closer to the same angle as you, Speedy. Speedy, Petey, remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Call us at 631-672-3108. Jeff has won a lot of money as Luis Heel did not pitch very well against the Baltimore Orioles. Actually, it's not even over yet. It's 17-5 Baltimore.
I know, 3-0 when I turned it on. Then he allowed a 3-run double. Then it was 6-0.
Yeah, this is horrible. I mean, Baltimore's killed the Yankees so far in this series this year. I think they're 7-2.
6-2. Yeah, they won 2 out of 3 the first time.
It's now going to be 7-2. So the Yankees have not played very well against the Orioles. But guess what? The Yankees are still in first place. And again, the Yankees are fighting injury. So I know I've taken shots at Paffelbon, but he has come out and said that the Yankees' woes are going to happen after they get injured. It looks like that's where it's heading. But I still don't think Jonathan Papelbon is right. How are you, Speed?
Maybe the Orioles need to put a honorary spot in their bullpen for Jonathan Papelbon at this point. I mean, they brought in Craig Kimbrell, who's probably just as old at this point. He's actually pitched well this year.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of off with Jonathan and what he has said, but
I think everybody is.
John always goes all over the place, as we all know what happened with him and Bryce Harper over there with the Washington team, Washington Nationals. I say Washington team because you don't know what you're going to call the Washington Commanders. By the way, the new Utah team is the Utah hockey team.
Yes.
Why would you name a hockey team the Utah hockey team? It makes no sense. Out of all for the last couple of months, you couldn't figure out a name? I mean, there's so many names you can go with. You're going to wait until next season to figure out what the Utah hockey team's name is?
I'm sure there's some like mythological.
It doesn't make sense.
I'm sure there's mythological creatures that originated in Great Salt Lakes that they could try something with.
It doesn't make any sense. That's just me. I'm just going to sit back and try to calm down because I'm a hockey fan and I'm not going to go back and forth. Whoever owns the Utah hockey team should be thinking in his own mind, hey, you know what? Maybe we should call them the Utah Umbrellas.
Well, it's the same
something.
It's the same dysfunctional ownership as the Arizona Coyotes. So there you go.
The Utah Snowbags or the Avalanche. The Utah. Well, it can't be the Avalanche. No. I mean the Utah Snow Monkeys. I mean. That's a cool name, Snow Monkeys.
I like that.
I've never seen a snow monkey before.
It would be funny. It would be funny though because of that.
Yeah, the Utah Sasquatch.
There you go.
I like
That's
that.
what I want Seattle to be.
Oh, there you go. Anyways, we have a great show lined up for you at 8:00. We'll be talking to Devy Watch, football prospect and evaluator Jason DiRienzo. He will be joining us. He's fantastic, guys. Tune in. 9:00. We'll be talking to Dynasty Nerds. Finally back. He's been, back and forth with us, but finally getting him back on the show. He's fantastic. Head of content, Garret Price. He is fantastic. He knows everything when you need to get into when it comes to fantasy and sports, including football. He's fantastic. The Lakers hired JJ Redick as their next head coach. We're going to get into this. This is great. Great content, so definitely tune in and listen to this subject. Rich Paul says that drafting Bronny does not mean LeBron will go to your team. Well, there you go, Rich. We just figured out that Bronny James is not going to anybody but the Lakers. The Pelicans say that Brandon Ingram is available, including trade talk, so we will get into that. Former Heat center Udonis Haslem says that the Knicks fans are the most entitled to the NBA. A Miami Heat player or ex-Miami Heat player throwing the Knicks fans under the bus. Don't we love it?
Yeah, you would never see Knicks fans leave Game 6 the way the Heat did against the Spurs.
Yep. NFL owners have discussed making separate salary cap restrictions just for the quarterbacks. I think that's great. I think that's going to help the NFL and also help the contract disputes with some of these players. Several ESPN analysts say that Dak Prescott should not sign a new deal until after the season. I agree. I think he's going to get paid a lot of money. Ryan Garcia retires boxing at the age of 25, that's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I've been saying that over and over and over again.
He's going to be like Brett Favre?
No, he's going to obviously suspended for a year, so he's going to say that he's retired. This is the second or third time he's retired from boxing from the age of 20 to 25. Wow, I mean, the guy's always retiring. How many times have we heard this from Ryan Garcia?
He's tied with Brett Favre now. Perfect.
Yes, and let's parlay, obviously, between 9:30 and 9:45 with Wes and Derek. We have them back.
Yes.
So why don't we get into it? It's the big story, ladies and gentlemen, and it has to do with the Lakers. The Lakers are the talk of the town. Woj reports that the Lakers officially hired JJ Redick as their next head coach. Redick met with President Rob Pelinka and owner Jeannie Buss over the weekend and said they were very impressed with his basketball IQ. Of course he says it. I would have said it too. But anyways, Woj also reports that the Lakers will look to hire an assistant coach with previous head coaching experience. Duh. Terms of the deal have not been revealed yet, but expecting less than 6 years, $70 million that was offered to Danny Hurley last week. The Pistons, yes, you heard it, the Pistons, after they fired head coach Monty Williams, were also interested in Redick. Maybe that's why they jumped on board with this. The Pistons, after they fired head coach Monty Williams, were also interested in Redick. And Williams is still owed $65 million over the next 5 years, result of a buyout. The Cavaliers and the Pistons are now the only two teams that haven't picked their next head coach. Oh my God. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go in and out of this subject right now with JJ Redick. First of all, JJ Redick was a decent NBA player. There's no question he was a good three-point shooter. He absolutely helped the game and helped the change of the game, as we've seen and we've said about Steph Curry. He played for Duke, so I'm a big JJ Redick fan. I don't like his podcast. I'm just speaking the truth. Him and LeBron James together on a podcast don't make any sense. But everybody knows why he got this job. Everybody and their mother knows why he landed this job. And the main reason why he landed this job was because of LeBron James. LeBron James wanted him from day one. And because of his connection with LeBron James, that sold Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss. They couldn't get Danny Hurley. He was out. He decided to go back to Connecticut. And the next best thing, because everybody was interested in JJ Redick, for what reason? Maybe because of his podcast, maybe because of his YouTube channel. That's what they wanted. There was nobody available this offseason. There really wasn't. Last year, there was 2 or 3 good coaches available. It's so funny. We mentioned like 2 or 3 coaches over the last couple of years that still haven't been hired. I'm not going to mention any names. One of them that coached the Nets a couple of years ago and helped the Nets take that team to higher heights. As a matter of fact, with the young Nets team, helped them really figure out how to bring in these superstar players like Kyrie Irving and obviously Kevin Durant. It didn't work out, but he was fired after they brought those 2 players in. But the fact is, when you look at rookie coaches in the NBA in the last 10 years, just look at these numbers. Steve Nash with the Nets in 2020. Joe Prunty with the Bucks, 2018. Billy Donovan with the Thunder, 2015. David Fizdale with the Grizzlies in 2016. Nick Nurse with the Raptors in 2018. Steve Kerr with the Warriors in 2014. And Tyronn Lue with the Cavaliers in 2015. All rookie coaches that made the playoffs. All 7 of them made the playoffs. Nurse, Lue, and Kerr won a championship in their first year. If you look at those numbers, they're incredible. The problem is, if you look at Nurse had Kawhi Leonard. Then you look at Tyronn Lue. He had a prime LeBron James. And Steve Kerr had a prime Stephon Curry. That's it. That's the facts there. What does JJ Redick have? Let's be honest here. What does JJ Redick have? He has an old LeBron James, a 30-year-old Anthony Davis, and a bunch of young players that nobody wants. So JJ Redick is taking over a team that's old, washed up, and has no future. Now, JJ had a chance to take the Pistons job, I would have looked at the Pistons job better because they have some young players. They have draft stock. You would have thought, hey, you know what? I go to the Pistons. I have a voice there. But after Monty Williams getting fired after 1 year, I don't know if you want to go to that organization. I don't know if you want to take over an organization that can't win. Had only 14 wins last year in a whole season. LeBron James is going to get you into the playoffs. He's going to get you into the playoffs. But is he going to get you over the hump? And even if you bring in JJ Redick, this is my question to Pelinka and obviously Jeannie Buss. Is that going to draw another superstar to come and play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? The answer, no. Now, everybody keeps bringing up Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram, we're going to get into in a little bit about him being a free agent. The Lakers are not going to get Brandon Ingram. One reason why is they traded him for Anthony Davis, and they have nothing to get Brandon Ingram for. They have nothing. Nothing. And you look at the Lakers, everybody keeps talking about Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's going to re-sign with the Cavaliers unless something crazy happens. He is staying with the Cavaliers for at least 3 years. So that is out. Zach LaVine, you think that's going to take you over the hump? It doesn't make sense. And this whole JJ Redick thing, I would have looked at somebody. I know Danny Hurley didn't work out, but you could have brought in an assistant coach that's top of the line assistant coach that everybody keeps talking about. Maybe looking at teams like the Golden State Warriors. They have 2 really good assistant coaches on their assistant coaching staff. How about the Knicks and what the Knicks did with Tom Thibodeau? Looking at some of the coaches on that staff. Looking at coaches. How about the Miami Heat? They're one of the best coaches in the NBA. Why didn't they look at any of the coaches on their staff? That's the problem right now. The Lakers they're out of conclusions now. They can't find anybody that wants this job. And everybody keeps talking about Bronny James. Who cares about Bronny James? Bronny James could be great. I don't know what he's going to be. LeBron says he's going to be great. At the Combine, he was fantastic. But what is he going to be in the NBA? And that doesn't mean that he's leaving the Lakers. It seems like this was selling LeBron James to stay with the Lakers. Taking JJ Redick is telling you there's no way in hell LeBron James is going anywhere. He is staying with the Lakers. And what does this tell me about Bronny James? Everybody keeps saying he's a second-round draft pick. The Lakers are drafting him in the first round. There's no question. Because, to me, LeBron is going nowhere after this move. Now, Anthony Davis, he's been a lot of talks with a couple of teams, one of them the Chicago Bulls, on maybe moving him back to his hometown, Chicago. If you bring in Zach LaVine or DeRozan, is that going to get you over the hump? The answer is no. You have to look at other teams like the Timberwolves that are looking to possibly move one of their big contracts because they have to give Anthony Edwards a big contract in the near future, and he's going to be expecting a ton of money. The Lakers are going to have to look at bringing in one superstar with that trade and another great player. That's going to get them over the hump, and the money has to match. That's the thing about the NBA. If you look at the coaching and the coaches that we have mentioned, Steve Kerr, Billy Donovan has been unsuccessful. I'm just speaking the truth. He's been coaching 2 teams. OKC, did they win a championship? No. He's gotten them, all the way. He got them into a Western Conference Finals, I think.
Yeah, they blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors.
That's right. But Steve Kerr, he had Klay Thompson. He had Steph Curry. That's what he had at the primes of their career. It would bother me right now if I was a Laker fan and I'm saying, hey, we got JJ Redick. That wouldn't make me happy. That wouldn't be the move that just surpasses every single team right now in the Western Conference. Look what we've seen with Dallas this year, with obviously one of the best players in Luka Doncic. Jason Kidd just got a new contract. You look at every single team in the Western Conference, the Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to be a very good team again next year. There's nobody that you can say right now that is going to be available this offseason that's going to change the Lakers. And JJ Redick is not the big name that's going to change this team for the better.
No, and Steve Kerr, like you brought up Steve Kerr, it was actually a similar trajectory when he went to the Warriors because he was a broadcaster as well and kind of inherited them. Oh, because Steph Curry's there playing at his peak. But the difference is they actually had a very well-built, like drafted team as well. The Warriors hit on Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes, and they signed all these other free agents, Livingston and guys like that, and they made it work. The Lakers have not done that to the same level. Now, Austin Reeves looks like he could be a nice player. Hachimura's looked pretty good in certain instances, but you're right. They don't really have that high upside young player. And JJ Redick is going to have to make a lot of those guys work if the Lakers are going to have any shot.
But is he a coach? That's the question. Is he a coach? Can he coach men? It would have made more sense if JJ Redick went and actually coached in college for a year or two. That would have made a lot of sense, what JJ Redick could have done. And then decide, hey, you know what? I've done that. I've been there for at least a year or two. Then I move on to the NBA. That's what I would have done if I was JJ Redick. When you're jumping ship from being an analyst for ESPN to jump and be a coach in the NBA and coach LeBron James, that's crazy. That's murder for him. If he fails over there with the Lakers, he'll never get a coaching job again. This is what's happened. Look at Derek Fisher, okay? Let's go to Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher got his coaching job with the New York Knicks. Does anybody remember that?
Sadly.
He did. He got his first coaching job with the New York Knicks. After that, did he ever get another job? The answer is no.
No, he just messed around with Matt Barnes' girlfriend.
Because when you go to a city that is expecting to win and you don't win or you don't bring them to that next level, you're never going to get another chance. Now, you have to prove yourself with those bad teams. You got to prove yourself with those teams. And there's quite a few guys that have done it before and that have gotten other coaching jobs after the fact. But JJ Redick taking a job like this is highway murder. I don't like it. I feel bad for JJ Redick because LeBron James, it doesn't matter what you do as a head coach. He is calling the plays on the court. It is not JJ Redick. It's not going to be his calls. It's going to be LeBron James. The coach of the team is LeBron James. He should have been hired as the player coach. The last one to do that was, I think it was Bill Russell, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually won a championship in 1969 doing that.
And you can see how somebody have failed. The concept has really gone
His
away.
IQ is so smart. I mean, LeBron James is the smartest guy since sliced bread. I mean, you point out the guys. Will Chamberlain, everybody says this guy's the smartest guy in NBA history. So if I was Jeannie Buss, I would have just made him a player coach.
And it's what's interesting, too, is there's other parallels with other coaches that LeBron has had that have gotten either gotten coaching jobs other places like Tyronn Lue, or in the case of Eric Spoelstra, got better when LeBron left.
Tyronn Lue got that job from the Clippers because of LeBron James and winning that championship his first year. That's the only reason why. But everybody forgets he had Kyrie Irving. That everybody pretty much forgets Kevin Love at the top of his game. Kevin Love was at the top of his game when he got traded over there to the Cavaliers. So I know everybody sits here and says, "Oh, well, LeBron James is still there." LeBron James is an old man. He's 40 years old that wants to make $60 million. You're going to pay LeBron James $60 million with a rookie coach, and you have no secondary offense. And I don't want to hear about Anthony Davis until Anthony Davis plays a full season. A full season, then we can talk about Anthony Davis. And by the way, the last time the Lakers won a championship was in the bubble time, okay? And that was a short season with COVID, no fans. The Lakers aren't good enough. They're not good enough. And if you look at their bench from top to bottom, and we have seen, if you look at all the teams that have won championships now over the last couple of years, it's all about the bench. It's all the Lakers are a team over the last couple of years that have not built their bench. They have fallen apart. They've traded away pieces that could have helped rebuild this team for the future. They have no future. That's what you look at the Grizzlies. You say whatever you want about the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a good team. They're a good team. They want to trade John Moran. They can get a lot back from John Moran. He's a youngster. He's a point guard that actually can still play. I would take that job over this Lakers job. I would take probably 25 jobs right now in the NBA over this Lakers job. So if I was JJ Redick and I was sitting still and I'm the hot commodity this offseason, why the hell would I take this job over all the jobs that was going to be offered to me? This would make no sense.
Maybe because the second option was the Pistons, who have been
Horrible.
in a functional mess for a while. Too.
I don't like this move. I think this is going to hurt JJ Redick's stock. It's going if he ever wants another job after this. And I'm going to tell you this is a 2-year run. This is 2 years. LeBron James, how many years does he have left? 2 years? After LeBron James is gone, what is JJ going to do? What are the Lakers going to do? Nobody's going to want to play over there for the Lakers. Everybody says, it's the Lakers. It's the Lakers. You hear Stephen A. Smith say, well, it's the Lakers. This isn't the same Lakers team, okay? And we've said that about the Knicks for years. Oh, the Knicks. Everybody's going to want to play in New York. Really? The last time a big name wanted to play in New York, I don't even remember, Carmelo Anthony. And Carmelo Anthony wasn't even a big name. He was a guy that was a great offensive player that only draw Carmelo Anthony because you brought in Amari Stoudemire here. To me right now, the only reason why people want to play for the Knicks now is Jalen Brunson, and he was found by the Knicks. He was found by Leon Rose. What has the Lakers found? What have they found? The Lakers are no good right now. If you go top to bottom and you look at this roster, this isn't a good roster. So why would he take this job? I would be pissed off if I was JJ Redick's father, his mother, or his wife. I'd be like, JJ, why are you taking this job? I'd take any job but this job.
Yeah, there's no stability with the Lakers when it comes to coaches either, when you see them rotated from guys like Derek Fisher, like you were saying, to Luke Walton, to I think it was Frank Vogel, and then like they've recycled all these guys, and it just doesn't work that same way. I think Mike Brown was there as an interim for a while when Kobe was there, and they didn't let him keep the job, and now he's done a nice job with the Sacramento Kings. So that kind of organizational questions is something that looms on Redick as well.
I'm reading Brandon Katz says it's a dumb take. He says he got a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money.
We don't know what the money is.
We don't know what the money is,
We don't know
first of all. So I don't know what you're talking about, Brandon. So shout out to Brandon Katz for hitting us up on YouTube. We don't know what he got, and it's going to be under Danny Hurley. Okay, he's not making Danny Hurley money, and that wasn't Danny Hurley would have been what, the fifth or sixth highest paid coach in the NBA. Why would he leave Connecticut to go to the Lakers that have no future? That's stupid take. Why would JJ Redick take this job? He's going to take a 6-year, probably between 50 and 45 million. JJ Redick, I don't know what anybody knows about what he's making on his podcast. JJ Redick's making a nice chunk of change right now on his podcast. Do you really think, and ESPN was paying him pretty decent money too. Do you really think that JJ Redick, out of all the options he had, this was the best option for him?
Keith says it's a challenge for JJ, and it takes time to rebuild a team. And it's going to take longer to rebuild a team because the Lakers traded a lot of draft picks away. Now, they have their first round this year, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to stockpile of
JJ Redick is not going to keep doing his podcast. I don't know what you're talking about, Brandon. I'm telling you, he's not going to keep doing his podcast. How is he going to have time when the season starts to do a podcast? How is he going to have time to do that? He's on the road all the time. Right. He's going to be practicing. How is he going to do his podcast? How does that make sense? Nope. He's not. His podcast is done until the offseason. He'll do his podcast now because it's the offseason. But as the draft comes around, he's got to concentrate on this team now and his organization. Now, you could say it's a stupid take. Anybody could say it's a stupid take. You have your own thoughts. I have mine. If I'm JJ, I'm not taking his job. I'm not. Again, Green does his podcast.
Draymond Green, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And so does LeBron. And so does him. And Draymond Green does his podcast. Draymond Green has his own podcast. What does he need to do? JJ Redick's podcast.
Draymond Green and LeBron James also don't have to show up to every practice, too. If you're a head coach, you're going to have to show up to every practice.
And by the way, Draymond Green is done with basketball. Just so everybody knows, he's done. He might have another year left playing professional basketball. He is no longer going to be a professional. First of all, Steph Curry doesn't want to play with him anymore. Klay Thompson, if he actually goes back. Now, Klay Thompson's an option for the Lakers. If he takes less money and LeBron takes less money to stay with the Lakers, he's an option. But does that take him over the top? It doesn't. It doesn't take him over the top. If I were the Lakers right now and I sit back and I'm figuring it out, what is he saying? That's not true? What do you mean that's not true? What is he saying over here, Speedy? Are you reading this?
They're not popping up for my screen.
Well, I'm reading it. It says Green played well last year. Wiggins and Klay were the problem. Really? Wiggins and Klay were the problem. Draymond Green played well last year? Draymond Green did not play well last year.
No, I wouldn't.
He didn't. And Draymond Green's game is defense. Is he the same defensive player he once was? The answer is no. Was he an all-defensive player this year? No, he wasn't. Okay, so saying that Draymond Green can still play, he wants money too. He wants to be extended too. You think the Golden State Warriors going to extend him? The Golden State Warriors, their executives are leaving. Myers left. He's working for ESPN, and he's working for the Washington Commanders. He left professional basketball to do and work on the executive list of the Commanders because he doesn't want to work with a basketball team anymore.
Maybe they'll create a random position for him with the Lakers because Magic Johnson is part owner of that too.
Well, again, and you're still not reading everything.
I can't with the full screen. I can't see.
I'm surprised. So it's so interesting, and I want. This is what I'll do. Fish, you're reading it. Read off the stuff. If people are reading, read it off so we can actually answer the questions for Brandon Katz. Obviously, because I can't do that when I'm hosting the show. But Green got his extension. Yeah. Draymond Green got his extension. But now that you're seeing all these new contracts, Draymond, and just because you get your extension doesn't mean he can't get another extension from that. He wants money. And Bob Myers destroyed the roster. Really? He destroyed the roster? Did Bob Myers draw Kevin Durant to come and play there? And everybody keeps saying it's Draymond Green. Who do you think was the GM of that team? It was Bob Myers. Okay? Bob Myers is the one. And he ruined that roster. The only thing he ruined was listening to Draymond Green and listening to Steph Curry on who should be on the roster and who shouldn't be on the roster. Yeah. That's the facts. All right? They should have never traded Jordan Poole. I don't think Jordan Poole is any good.
No.
But I would have never traded Jordan Poole. What did you get for Jordan Poole?
Yeah, it's not like what they're getting. It seems like they won the trade right now as it is.
And you keep saying, listen, I live in Long Island, okay, Brandon? I live in Long Island. And where they were recruiting him was the Hamptons, all right? So for all you guys that think that it was just Draymond Green and Steph Curry that drew him, it wasn't. It was the team. It was the talent around him. That's it. And Poole, what is he saying? Meyer gave Poole $30 million. Come on, Fish, read this up.
He did.
Read this up, man. You could come in and read off what he's saying. I can't read it while I'm hosting a show.
Keith also says, Errol, you're not JJ. And obviously he took the time because he wants it more than he wants the stupid podcast with LeBron, which could also be true.
I didn't say I was JJ. Who said I was JJ?
No, I think you were saying, like, if you were in that position, you would have taken a different job than the Lakers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
If I got offered 3 or even 4 different jobs, there were 2 other teams that were interested in the Cavaliers and the Pistons. You're going to tell me you wouldn't take the Cavaliers job over the Lakers? I wouldn't take that in a heartbeat.
Yes, Brendan, he did give him a $130 million contract because he had 2 good years in a row. And yes, he had that issue with Draymond Green. That's why he got traded and then fell off. It wasn't the result of Bob Myers doing something wrong. He had no choice but to trade him because Draymond Green was probably inflicting that.
I'm just sitting here and Mitchell is leaving. Really? Is he really leaving? Because what I was hearing is Donovan Mitchell is going to sign that extension maybe 3 to 4 years. To me, Donovan Mitchell is staying with the Cavaliers for at least another 3 to 4 years. That's what I've heard, unless something is transitioning or changing. So, and Wiseman, yeah, everybody would have drafted Wiseman. If Wiseman was drafted not number 2, I think he was 3.
No, he was 2.
It was 2?
He was right after Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, all right. So Wiseman was drafted number 2, and they should have never traded him. They traded him to the Pistons. It didn't make any sense why they did that. And again, Wiseman never got a chance to be on the court. Why? Because Draymond Green was hogging it. It is again, you sit here and you want to take shots at Wiseman. Wiseman probably was on the list of the top 2, top 3 players in that draft. Some people thought that Wiseman should have went 1.
I did at the time.
He never fit with the Warriors, but you take talent over what they fit. I'm telling you, when it comes to the NBA, you always take talent or what fits on the team.
Right. And nobody was going to, like, unless the Warriors traded the pick back, nobody else was going to do that kind of thing. He's still very talented with a lot of upside at the time, and he had injuries.
And Justin says, I like Wiseman. I like Wiseman too. I think you have to give him a little bit more time to develop. Sure. He's only 22, 23 years old, and he's got a tremendous background in ability. He's a good power forward. He can rebound. And eventually, if he learns how to shoot a 3, he could be a dominant force. We've seen a lot of big men figure it out in the NBA.
DeAndre Ayton
takes a little while. Al Horford wasn't a good 3-point shooter.
Nope. DeAndre Ayton had that same thing in his draft. He was the number 1 overall pick. He could shoot a little mid-range, but couldn't shoot the 3s. Then he developed it later in his career with the Suns. And Wiseman never really had that same kind of chance. Yes, Halliburton went in the same draft, but the Warriors did not need Halliburton at the time because they had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
He's saying Kuminga doesn't fit with the Golden State Warriors.
Kuminga's a good player.
He's a great player.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's a great player. He's the future of the Golden State Warriors. Kuminga is the future of that team.
Yeah.
Whenever Klay Thompson decides to go elsewhere, which it seems like he might this year, and it makes a lot of sense why the Lakers are going to make a run for him. It makes a lot of sense because they have no third-dairy offense. They don't have a third guy that's going to give them offense. And I believe Klay Thompson's a bench player. He's a six-man off the bench. He's not even a starter anymore. He doesn't have the knees. He doesn't have the legs anymore to be a starter. And he's not a great defensive player anymore. He's not an elite defensive player. Ever since he tore his Achilles in his knee, he hasn't been the same player.
Keith also says Wiseman is a bust as a number 2 pick.
How is he a bust?
We don't know yet. He hasn't played.
He's 23 years old. What makes him a bust?
He's been hurt. He hasn't. Yeah, if he might be the next Greg Oden, I don't know. But right now, you can't say that at the moment until he actually plays.
Greg Oden had a bad knee. He never got a chance to prove himself on the Portland Trail Blazers. He retired 2 years in.
Right.
So you can't really. And what is he saying?
We know Halliburton went 12th. The Warriors did not need Halliburton at the time.
The Knicks could have drafted Halliburton.
They were very interested in Halliburton at the time. Yeah.
The Knicks could have drafted Donovan Mitchell, did they? There was 13 teams that passed on Donovan Mitchell? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of players. Look at Kawhi Leonard. He went 16. Look at the Greek Freak. Look at Giannis. He went, 17, 16? Mm-hmm. There are many players. Look at Jokic. He went in the second round.
He had a commercial on what he was showing. I think Jokic was asleep when he was drafted.
Players get passed on. It happens in football, too. Yeah. In all sports. You find guys in the later rounds. And if you're a good talent evaluator, as we've seen in professional sports, you find these guys. What is he saying over here? You guys just cooked yourself. What is he saying over here?
Yeah, okay. Halliburton at the time of the draft, Brandon, was not going to go second overall. He was coming off a major Achilles injury. And there was questions with his three-point shooting going into the draft. You could say it now in hindsight that he might be the second best player, but that does not mean that at the time, the smart move for the Golden State Warriors was to pass on what was thought of as one of the best big man prospects in the draft in James Wiseman when you needed size at that time to draft Halliburton, who you don't need because you have Steph Curry.
I like Halliburton. I think he's a great player. And again, he became a very good three-point shooter. Look at what he did in the three-point contest this year. Right. He's developed a three-point shot. Most guys have to develop a three-point shot with the league transitioning and the way Steph Curry has brought the three-point shot to the NBA and how important it is. I mean, everybody's jacking up 30 to 36 threes every single game. If you don't, you're not going to win. So it's a completely different game than it was in the 90s and in the early 2000s with Kobe Bryant and all these big men that didn't have to shoot. All you had to do was rebound and you had a dominant force. You can dominate in the paint. It's not like that anymore. Again, going back to Wiseman, I think Wiseman could be a good player. Kuminga is a good player. Yeah. You put Kuminga on any other team right now, he'd be a starter. He'd be a starter on those teams, especially the Knicks, if you put Kuminga on that team. Again, we don't know how these guys are going to develop. Now, Draymond Green and Steph Curry are playing at the same level. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Not even close.
No, they're not. Listen, Brandon, you seem like a cool guy. You seem like a good guy. You know your basketball. If you really think Draymond Green is playing at the top of his game in 2022, then I don't know what you're watching. I had him on my fantasy team for the last 2 years. He has done nothing for me on my fantasy team. This is a guy that at one point was a two-dimensional player. He can give you 12 to 14 points. He hits a couple of threes here and there. He gives you the rebounding. He gives you the defense. He gives you everything. He's lost like 2 out of the 3. He's not the same player. He's not this year. What did he average? 9 points a game?
And again, he's undersized at his position too. And the league has gotten bigger. Like all these guys are shooting at 6'7", 6'8", shooting threes.
Again, when you look at it is, and by the way, Justin says Green is butt. And I agree with you. I don't think Draymond Green is any good of a player anymore. I think he needs to look at, developing his podcast or becoming an analyst like he has been with TNT, there is no longer to the TNT analyst. Barkley's retiring. It seems
like
1
more year. Yeah,
they're all probably going to step away from it. But again, you look at where the Lakers are, and you look at the specific thoughts of where the team is heading. They're not heading in a good position. They have no future. Here's their future: Bronny James, because that's where he's going.
Yeah,
that's where he's going. Anybody that doesn't believe Bronny James is getting drafted in the first round, I've been telling everybody for a long time. Everybody says the Lakers will draft him in the second. No way. No way are they going to take a chance of losing him in the second round. He is going in the first round. Where are the Lakers drafting?
17.
He's going 17. And you could book it. You can book it. There's no way in hell Bronny James is going to last all the way into the second round. There are teams going to be lining up for him because they know if they can get Bronny James, then maybe in the future, if LeBron says, you know what, I'm going to sign a 1-year deal with the Lakers, see what they're going to do with JJ Redick, I could go and play with my son. He already came out and said that he wants to play with his son for his last 2 or 3 years of his career. So again, what is he saying with Green
the
now?
roster isn't as good as last year. Okay, maybe it isn't, but like, it still doesn't mean Draymond Green has grown like for what he was like even 3-4 years ago. Like the position he's playing is
he must be a Golden State Warriors fan.
But every Warriors fan that I've seen on social media like wants 2 things that is the opposite of you, Brandon. 1, they want more minutes for Kuminga, and number 2, they want Draymond Green to like evolve a different part of his game.
Everybody wants Draymond Green to retire.
That's it.
Over there. I mean, nobody over there. The fans don't like him over there. He's been booed off the court, and you keep saying that Draymond Green is loved and this and that. He's still a good player. He's not. He's not. Kuminga should be starting over him. Kuminga's a better player than him, and you're telling me Kuminga doesn't fit? He fits. He's a good rebounder. He's a good perimeter shooter. He can shoot those 16, 17-foot jumpers, and he can shoot the 3. How is he not a good player? How does he not fit with the Golden State Warriors?
Everybody was annoyed.
Oh, Green is a scapegoat? Are you kidding me? Of what? This team stinks. The only player they have is Stephon Curry and Kuminga. Those are the only 2 players they have. Klay Thompson's done. Draymond Green's done. And you know what? You know what they did? They extended Steve Kerr last year. That's what they did. That's our big move. We're going to extend Steve Kerr. What has Steve Kerr done as a coach?
Yeah, he has to play young players more, and that's something that other
Warriors
Warriors
won
fans,
without Steph Curry.
Not you, Brandon, but other Warriors fans have criticized Steve Kerr in the past for not playing Kuminga as much. And the kid Pajemski, who was a rookie this year that played well at off the bench as a 3-point shooter, like those are the guys that'll be getting more minutes, especially if Klay Thompson becomes a free agent.
What is he saying over here? That I'm wrong, that the Warriors roster hasn't been as good as the last 2 years? What year?
Where do you see that?
Let's look at the numbers. Let's bring up the numbers. Bring up the numbers. I want to see the numbers. Bring up the numbers of the Golden State Warriors from this year and the last 2 years. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years ago, they won a championship. Did they not?
They did.
Okay.
They beat the Celtics in the finals.
Yes. So they won a champion 3 years ago. So in the last 2 years, you're going to tell me in the last 2 years, they were better than the year they won a championship?
All right, Brandon, here's Klay Thompson's.
Come on, Brandon.
17.9 points per game.
What are you trying to sell here?
3.3 rebounds, 2.3 assists a game. Like we were saying, regressing defense. Oh, let's see. Look at this. Who's the 3rd leading scorer on the team? How about Kuminga? 16.1 points per game. 4.8 rebounds, 2.2 assists. Let's see where Draymond Green is on the scoring list. I understand he's not much of a scorer, but the great 8.6 points per game.
9 points.
Pajemski, who I mentioned
I don't even have to look at that, by the way.
is a good 3-point shooter off the bench. 9.2 points per game, 5.8 rebounds. So Green's leading in rebounds, and then 3.7 assists. Draymond only has 6, which is only a couple more.
Just so you know, you said the roster is crap. This is the same roster it was 3 years ago. Except Jordan Poole.
Right. I'll even give Moses Moody more of a chance, too.
You said Wiggins sucks, and Wiggins was a part of that championship team. He was on the roster.
Yep.
So you're oxymoron right there. You're telling me that the roster, it's the same roster.
Yes, Wiggins has been worse. We understand that. I'm not saying
the same roster.
It's not. It's a lot of the same has to be with the younger players. The roster is, besides Pajemski, who's a rookie this year, every other guy was that. Yes, players change. They get older, including Draymond Green.
That's what we're talking about. Kuminga, you're telling us Kuminga doesn't fit. He's averaging 16 points a game. He's gotten better every single year. What are you talking about? It doesn't make sense.
Kuminga should be playing
Kuminga should be a starter. He should be a starter. He should be coming off the bench like he's been. And when he did start, when Draymond Green was hurt, he was playing great basketball.
Okay, you shot 39% from 3. How many?
Oh my God!
How many attempts did Draymond Green have compared to the rest of the team?
Let's look. Why don't you look at that number? Come on, Brandon. You're not going to sell me this, and you're not going to sell me that JJ Redick picking the Lakers is a good move. It's not. It's not a good move. It's not a good move for the Lakers, and it's not a good move for him. They only did it because LeBron James wanted it. And what is LeBron going to do? If Bronny doesn't go to the Lakers, if he don't go to the Lakers, do you really think, and I'm going to tell you this right now, Bronny will not sign an extension. LeBron will not sign an extension until he knows where Bronny is going. Mark that. You can sell that. When's the draft? When's the draft coming up?
28th, I believe.
The 28th of this month. You will not hear LeBron James sign an extension until he knows where Bronny goes. You can sell that and book that. There's no way in hell he's going to do it.
All right, Brandon, here, you want to know something? Hey, you want to know how many points, how many three-pointers Draymond Green shot per game? It was 2.3, which is down from those prime years that you claim, oh, his stats are all the same from his prime years. No, he averaged in three-pointers attempted per game, 2014, 4.2, 3.2, 3.5, 3.7. That's about double or half of the amount he's shooting for a year.
It doesn't make sense. I don't think you could sell that to the basketball fan where it makes a lot of sense on why JJ took that job over all the other jobs. If I was a basketball fan, and I am a basketball fan. If I was a Laker fan, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy with that hire. And if I was a JJ Redick fan, I wouldn't be happy for taking that job after all the other jobs that were available to him.
All right, Brandon. There's no evidence to say that he's a worse player than 2022. 2022, he was still second all-team defense. Yes, he has less points, but he's still second-team all-team defense, was 10th overall defensive player of the year, and was an all-star.
All right, Fish, what do you got?
All right, Brandon. I went and found the advanced stats that prove you wrong here. If you take a look at Draymond's defensive rating, during the championship season, he was at a 102.6. Closer to 100, the better. He had a few seasons under 100. He was one of the best defensive players in the league in his prime. Look at the last 2 years. If you're over 110, you're not a good defensive player anymore. And that's the fact about Draymond Green. If a guy is only shooting a couple of threes a game and facilitating, he's not a threat on offense. They can sag off of him. It's not just the supporting cast. It's him too. And if he's not going to be even average defensively, what do they really have? And that's all it is.
Yeah, they lack size too, like we were saying with Wiseman. That Wiseman was the right move at the time.
One of their strengths was their defense. And with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, these guys were elite defenders.
Right.
Elite. They're not elite anymore. Klay Thompson's a shell of himself. As he wants a big contract, he's going somewhere else. There's no way he's resigning over there. And if they do resign him, they're setting their team back again. Yeah. They gave Draymond Green that extension. Draymond Green has another year left. Let's be honest with that. He's not going to come back after this coming year. He's going to, he's going to have his farewell tour with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are right now, if you look at their team and their roster right now, where are they ranked? 8th, 9th right now in the Western Conference, maybe at best, even without Klay Thompson. That's where they're going. That's only if Kuminga takes another step forward. That's only if Kuminga takes another step forward. Now, obviously, Golden State, if they decide not to go with Klay Thompson, they could bring in a Zach LaVine. They could bring in somebody else to play with these guys. But again, are you willing to make those moves to make your team that competitive? Are they going to be competitive with those moves?
Brandon also says individual defensive ratings too, but okay, that doesn't mean that the Warriors defense is worse without Draymond Green. That doesn't make a difference though with how good of a defender Draymond is.
The Athletic reports that the Pelicans have made Brandon Ingram available for trade discussions. Ingram has one more year left on his current contract worth about $36 million. Ingram's agent mentioned that he is seeking a new contract worth about $52 million a year. The Rockets and the 76ers have expressed most of the interest and discussions with the Pelicans. The Pelicans were interested in Rockets' young big man, Sengun, but Houston turned it down. The 76ers have been linked to many other big names, including Jimmy Buckets and Paul George in the offseason rumors. I mean, everybody's connected to both these players, even the Knicks. They're connected to Jimmy Buckets, I've heard over the last 2 days, and also Paul George, who's been connected to the Knicks since last year. Yeah. Okay, so we all know these are the two big names that everybody's going to be speaking about this offseason, but these are two injury-prone guys. So are you going to take guys in the middle-aged guys that are probably at the tail end of their career? Now, Jimmy has proven that he can play in the playoffs. Paul George can't even play in the playoffs because he's not healthy enough. Okay, so that's a big problem. If you're the Knicks or you're the 76ers, you're taking a chance with any one of these guys. Okay, that's just my opinion. As far as a guy like Brandon Ingram's a nice player. Yeah. He's a good player. He could be a star on another roster. He could be a number 2 or a number 1 guy, depending on where he goes. Now, the Pelicans are looking at Williamson being their future, their guy, their go-to guy, unless they decide to trade him. Now, the Pelicans are an organization that likes to trade away stars, as we've seen over the years. So, and obviously, when you look at the organization as a whole, they're not winning in the Western Conference. They're not. The Western Conference is loaded, top loaded. OKC is only going to get better. They just traded Giddey. I think that's a good move by them because they're looking for defense, as they were very bad on the perimeter in the playoffs, especially in the later rounds in the Western Conference. I mean, in the semifinals. I think that when you look at the Pelicans right now, they're looking to get better. So if you trade Brandon Ingram, where do you trade him where you're going to get better? What players could you get? Now, the Rockets are an interesting team. They're an interesting organization. They're looking for that superstar. I like Green. I think Green's a good player, but he hasn't taken that second step. I've seen Green in the first 2 years that he's played. He's pretty much stagnant. We know what he is offensively. We haven't seen him take a jump. And that's what you want to see from a young player. We haven't seen that. Brandon Ingram, we've seen him take steps forward ever since he left the Lakers. He's become a star, and he's been a borderline all-star all of the last 2 or 3 years. When he is healthy, he's as good as anybody. He could shoot the three, he can get into the paint, he could shoot free throws. He's good all around. The whole thing right now with Ingram is he worth $52 million? Yeah. That's the question. If you're a team right now and you have the money, are you willing to pay him? Are you willing to give him $52 million? Now, OKC makes a lot of sense. They have a ton of money. Now, they're going to have to pay Shai. Shai Alexander is going to get paid, probably this offseason, but you still have a lot of money. All these youngsters, they don't need to be paid for at least another 2 or 3 years. You go after Brandon Ingram, you pay him. With this roster, with Brandon Ingram, you're a championship competitive team. That changes everything. Now, your roster's already loaded, and you have all these first-round draft picks, which you can build around. But you want to win now. You want to win in the next 2 to 3 years. Your window just opened, and your window is going to be open for the next 6 years because you're a young organization, you're a young team. They built this team right ever since Russell Westbrook and KD. They have done this right, but they cannot. I repeat, they cannot bring in old players. OKC bringing in veteran players with these youngsters and expect them to get over the hump. I think you go with Brandon Ingram. I think it makes a lot of sense for OKC, and you get that inside presence who can shoot the three and can dominate into the paint.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit for a team like that because they need somebody that could shoot the three as a taller guy that has a lot of length as well, because they were shooting threes with a lot with their guards, and Holmgren can shoot the three too, but that's not what his main known for in this game is. You want to be able to get somebody that can attack the hoop and be a well-rounded offensive type player. You saw in that playoff series against Dallas, that was the one thing that was missing from their game is shooters on the wing like that. And I think that kind of fit makes a lot of sense for the Pelicans end of it too. Like both Brandon Ingram and Zion, like they were big name prospects at the time. Zion was a huge name prospect, and neither of them have really taken that next step yet.
I love Brandon because he's arguing every single take that we have, and that's fine. That's his opinion, and I take his opinion, and I understand what he's trying to get at. But you're going to tell me that he doesn't work with Shai Alexander? How does it not work?
I don't.
What are you talking about? Shai Alexander likes to chuck up threes. He likes to play around the perimeter, and this man could shoot threes and get into the paint, rebound. He's one of the best rebounders in the league.
And again, why would you take a chance on somebody like Paul George who's always hurt, Brandon? When you have, I mean, Ingram's had injury issues.
Paul George, are you nuts?
Yeah.
Why would you take a veteran player when you're a young team? You're going to take a guy that demands the ball in his hands when you want to get the ball to Shai Alexander. With Brandon Ingram, you're going to pay him. He's going to know that he's the second guy, and you know that you can win with both these guys because Brandon Ingram has proven that he can play with Williamson, he can play with CJ McCollum, he can play with these star players and be good. You don't need him to be the elite player. You need him to be the secondary player. He's perfect. He's a perfect fit for OKC. And with the draft stock that they have, they can decide, hey, you know what? We can move some of those draft picks and bring in a player. You don't even have to give up any of the players on your roster. You got a ton of draft stock.
Right. And again, you look at the young upside that Ingram could still have. Like
Paul George does not want a 2-year deal. No, there's no way he's taking a 2-year deal. Brandon, I don't know where you are and where you're coming from here. I understand you're trying to make sense to this. There's no way. This is Paul George's last contract in the NBA. Paul George is what, 32 years old?
Yeah.
31, 32 years old?
I think 31, yeah.
Paul George has another 3 good years. He's going to want a 3 to 4 year deal. There's no way he's taking a 2-year deal with OKC. He could stay with the Clippers, and they'll probably give him more than that.
I think he was eligible for 4 years, 212, too. Like, why would he take a 2-year deal? That doesn't make any sense. And why would all
right, he's 35 years old. It doesn't matter. Paul George is going to take more years. Yeah. He's not going to take a 2-year deal. He had an offer. He got an offer last year for 3 to 4 years. Right. Why would he take less?
And even if Paul George makes less money per year,
nobody's giving him a 4-year max. Okay.
All right. No, even if OKC,
he's 34, he's not 35.
Okay, whatever. Even if OKC takes a little, I have to pay him a little more money, pay Brandon Ingram $52 million a year. There's a lot more upside. There could be more untapped potential that still is coming. This guy was the 2nd overall pick for a reason, and his skill set is very well rounded. Is he like the amazing, elite, all NBA level player yet? No, but he definitely could get there. And on OKC, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren on that team. Like, there's not a lot of pressure on him to have to be that guy.
I would be pissed off if I was an OKC fan and say, you know what? I'm going to give Paul George a 2-3 year deal. I'm going to take him over Brandon Ingram when all I have to do is trade draft picks. I have 7 or 8 draft picks, first round draft picks in the next 3 years. Why wouldn't I trade 2 or maybe even 3 of those picks and a player to land somebody like Brandon Ingram? Because that's all you're going to have to give up.
And remember this too,
because you got to pay him.
Right. Brandon, remember this too. Paul George was in OKC as well. There's probably a sour taste from their organization. The fans are not going to embrace that the same way they would with Ingram.
It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And if right now you're a Pelicans fan, you would want to move Brandon Ingram. And the reason why is their future is more than likely going to be without Williamson. I think they trade Williamson. He's an injury-prone player. Eventually, they're going to get sick of him. CJ McCollum, how many years does he have left? A year? Right. A year left on his contract?
Like Klay Thompson.
Yeah, he's a veteran player. He's going to want to go to a team that's going to win a championship or has a chance to win a championship. He's not re-signing with them. So what do they have? What is their future? What is the Pelicans' future?
And they have a good bench, too, which is the funny part, but they don't really have that high upside, stars.
No, they're going to rebuild.
Them. Yeah,
that's what they're going to do. They're going to rebuild with the organization. They don't have a chance in the Western Conference. They really don't. You saw that, and they played well in the playoffs. I have to give the Pelicans a lot of credit.
They're a good defensive team.
They're very good, and they're very well coached, too. So I just think that when you look at teams like the Grizzlies and teams like, they're not going to be able to afford these players. These players are going to want mucho dinero, and they're going to want to go to big cities. That's where they want to go. And Brandon Ingram, OKC is not a big city. We all know that. But OKC is a place that you're going to want to go.
Yeah.
And I believe Josh Giddey got traded because of the whole situation with that girl.
Right.
I do not believe it had anything to do with his talent and he didn't fit there. I think it was get him out of town. He needs to go somewhere else. He'll have a fresh start over there in Chicago. That's where he went. So, and Billy Donovan will get the most out of him. That's why I think it makes a lot of sense on why Giddey is gone. So
you wonder how much of a distraction that might have caused, but they were the 1 seed, so maybe not, but I don't know. We'll see.
OKC added Brandon Ingram. They were the 1 seed this year. Could you imagine how good they're going to be next year?
Right.
I mean, they'd be scary good.
Yeah.
And they don't. And again, you have to pay him. So, and what does he say? That's wrong. Giddey got traded because he can't play off
the ball. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So now you're going to argue about Giddey and the reason why he got traded. Josh Giddey, would have never been traded. Brandon, I'm going to tell you this, and you can take this to the book because we've had people that work with the OKC Thunder on our show. Okay.
The reason they benched Giddey in the playoffs was not because of the fact that he's not talented. They just need more 3-point shooting. They didn't have enough of it in that series.
Giddey, there was a lot of things going on in the regular season with this girl, and they just want to get him out. They did not want him there anymore. That's the facts, okay? You can sell it. You can do whatever you want. 35%. What is he talking about? Ingram shot 35% in 3 this year.
Which is okay. That's all right. It's not
amazing. Again, I'm not gonna argue with him. If you're gonna bring Brandon Ingram and his 3-point shot, I'm gonna tell you, he's a rebounder. He's a 17, 16-foot jumper. He can do all the things. They had problems against the teams that were good in the playoffs. And rebounding is so very important in the playoffs. So you're adding 11 to 10 rebounds a game right there. And he's one of the better offensive rebounders in the league. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you're arguing this. It makes no sense. Anyways, when we come back, we will be talking to our friend, Jason DiRienzo. But first, before that, we have our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
Top of the hour, I am Tommy Scoops, bringing you all the Loudmouth Sports Minute and jumping straight into it over in the NBA. The 76ers are no longer expected to pursue Clippers Paul George, as Philadelphia is expected to be aggressive elsewhere. 76ers president Daryl Morey did say that the team needs someone at the wing who could deliver in the playoffs. Over in the NFL, Patriots are re-signing their top running back, Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson, who is entering his 4th year with New England, locks up a 4-year deal worth $36 million. Lastly, over in the MLB, Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw is making progress in his injury return. Kershaw, who had a shoulder surgery back in November, pitched his 3 innings in his first start at a rehab game, as Kershaw is confident to return this season, saying he checked all the boxes. Now it's time for Scoops and Scores, where currently the only ongoing game is over in the MLB, as the San Francisco Giants are taking on the Cardinals, both with 0 apiece at the top of the first. Later on, Milwaukee and San Diego at 9:40 are both expected to be playing later today. It's currently all the time I have for you guys right now. I'm going to kick it back to the boys for their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Willie Whoppers, Speedy! Willie Whoppers! It's good for both. How thick do you like the beef? Do you bend the meat? 631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Petey. Petey, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Check out all our local listings by going to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And by the way, Keith just sent me a text a little while ago, and he said, do you think Bronny James is a first-round draft pick? No, I do not believe he's a first-round draft pick, but the Lakers are going to do whatever they can to get him because he doesn't want him to go anywhere else, where you're going to hear stories coming out in the very near future on why LeBron James didn't sign that extension or a long extension with the Lakers, and he's going to go elsewhere where his son is. So that's what I think. No, I do not think he's a first-round draft pick, but who knows? His talent could be there, and he could definitely have a chance to be as good as anybody or everybody in this year's coming draft. Anyways, we're very happy to have him on. We haven't had him on for a little while. We're now talking to Devy Watch football prospect evaluator Jason DiRienzo. Jason, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing? I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. We haven't had John for a little while. And definitely going to get into some football conversation because I know you're looking forward to that. And it was a really crazy draft this year and a lot of ups and downs, a lot of teams, winners and losers. We don't know if they're winners and losers probably until 3 years in. So as much as we want to point fingers and say, oh, this team did well and that team didn't do well, we don't know until we see what these guys could do on a football field.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting draft. A lot of picks that were, head scratchers, but a lot that made sense too. So it was very much anticipated with the quarterbacks.
Everybody was going all over the place with the quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams was the name. I've been talking about Caleb Williams for the last 3 years, and we've had different analysts on the show telling me he's not even going to be a first round. He's not going to be the number 1 pick. He's going to fall out of the top 10 and all this other stuff. And I said, you're on drugs. This guy is going to be the number 1 pick. I don't care where you're drafting or what type of team you are. If you're sitting there at 1, you're drafting Caleb Williams. What were your thoughts to Caleb Williams before the draft? Did you think no matter what happens in the regular season, this guy was going to be number 1?
Absolutely. I've been following this kid since high school. He went to Oklahoma and, he performed pretty well at Oklahoma too. When he went over to USC, he didn't fall into the best situation. That defense was horrendous. He had to put the team on his shoulders quite a bit. The offensive line didn't give him much. And the running game was questionable. So it was a lot on him. And if you look at the weapons that he had, Taj Washington, Brendan Rice, like these guys went late in the draft, like 6th, 7th round undrafted. So Caleb Williams, to me, I don't know how. I mean, you look at that Notre Dame game, right? Everybody's going to that and how he kind of threw those interceptions and made different decisions. Man, he had to do a lot. He was always going to be the number 1 overall pick. And I think anybody who thought differently, honestly, just wanted to be different or was just kind of getting cute because it was just way too obvious to me.
So what about some of the fits for the other quarterbacks that you saw? Jaden Daniels went number 2, Drake May, Bo Nix, surprisingly, and Penix in the first round. What are your thoughts on those fits, both for fantasy? I know you do a little fantasy too, and also with the draft.
Yeah, I love Jaden Daniels going to the Commanders. I think he's really going to elevate the game of Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. You know, they've been hungry for a guy who can elevate the receivers. Sam Howell's good, man, but he's not that guy that's going to elevate the receivers around him and, you know, open up the run game either. Jaden Daniels can do that. He's a threat on the ground. So in fantasy, I absolutely love this kid. I know he's got a thinner frame, but you got to maximize the potential when you have a kid who can run the way that he does, make good reads, throw the ball with accuracy, and throw with the anticipation. And that's why I love this for Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. Bo Nix, man, I'll tell you what, I was not high on Bo Nix. To me, I mean, in the industry, when I was at the Senior Bowl, he was getting the nickname Bubble Screen Bo. And it made total sense when you watched him at Oregon, you know? But he lands in the perfect situation for Sean Payton. So they took Troy Franklin, who was his receiver at Oregon, with him. So there's going to be chemistry right out the gate there. I really love Marvin Mims. So there's a lot that's going to go right for Bo Nix. Even though the talent's not there, I think that they will find a way to maximize the strengths and minimize the weaknesses. Michael Penix, I know that was crazy at number 8, you know, especially since they have Kirk Cousins. But if you really think about it, that's a nice insurance policy. Number 8 was pretty expensive. I mean, we saw back in the day, Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins go in the same draft. Kirk was what, a 5th round pick when RG3 went, you know, what, top 3? Yep. And how did that work out? So sometimes you need that insurance policy, and I kind of understand what they did there. So it's going to take a little while. He's an older prospect with injury concerns, but to have him on the bench and ready to go in case something happens to Kirk, it's a good plan, you know. And then with Drake May, he needs to sit, man. I really want Jacoby Brissett to be the one to start for the Patriots because there's a lot of learning that Drake May needs to do. The talent is there, the upside is there, but the mental processing and what he sees on the field, identifying defensive coverages, he's going to have to learn that. There's going to be a lot of interceptions that are going to go, you know, if he starts. I think it's beneficial if he sits. To me, Caleb Williams was a surefire number 1. Jaden Daniels was a great second pick. The rest of them, I really feel like they landed in ideal situations where Drake May at least has Jacoby Brissett to start in front of him so he can learn.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Devy Watch football prospect evaluator Jason DiRienzo, friend of the show. He knows his stuff, but there's so many conversations over the last couple of days with the Trevor Lawrence signing. $55 million. He's tied with Joe Burrow to make the highest paid out of all the quarterbacks in the league. And now everybody's talking about Dak Prescott. What are the Cowboys going to give Dak Prescott now? Is he going to make $60 million? And then you hear Tua. If Tua has another good season, what are the Miami Dolphins going to do? If you sit here right now as an organization and you look at the Cowboys need to pay CeeDee Lamb. They need to pay, obviously, Micah Parsons in the very near future. And then you look at, obviously, Tua, who's injury prone, has the concussion problem. Are you going to pay him $55 to $60 million, even if he has a good season like he did last year in the middle of the season? So what are your thoughts to 2 of these guys? Do they get max contracts like Trevor Lawrence? Because I don't think Trevor Lawrence deserved that money.
No, I don't think he deserved that money, but I think we fall into the same category here. The Jaguars, did they really even have a choice? You know what I mean? They need to cement that quarterback position so they can continue building and setting momentum in the right direction, regardless of whether Trevor Lawrence has actually performed at the level he's getting paid. They're trying to surround him. He's a talented quarterback, but when he was coming out, you know, he was being praised for that deep ball accuracy and everything else that we have not seen yet in the NFL, and that's become a problem. So no, I don't think he deserved it, but I think the Jaguars know that they were kind of handicapped, and this upcoming NFL draft in the 2025 just doesn't have somebody that can replace him, where they've already, you know, really built a foundation with the defense and the skill positions around Trevor Lawrence. I think they knew that they didn't have a choice. They had to do it. Dak, man, I'll tell you what, the Cowboys, Trey Lance behind Dak, it's going to really tailor to the development of Trey Lance, because they really should have had someone in the back that if they weren't going to pay Dak, they could develop. So if they don't have someone in the background developing, they're going to have to pay Dak as well. And with Tua, I would never pay Tua. There's too much risk. I think I would just tag him until we figure out whether it's actually going to be worth it or not. I don't know if I could actually spend the money on Tua, because they have weapons around Tua that have speed. And if you could just get the ball in these guys' hands, I don't think you need a dynamic quarterback that makes plays because they have playmakers. That's actually the receivers that can make the quarterback. They've developed that offense that way. I think Tua is the one that I would be more hesitant than even Dak. I think the Cowboys know that they got to figure something out here. It wouldn't surprise me if they end up paying Dak, honestly. It's gonna pigeonhole the offense and the entire team, but the quarterback's so important, man.
In order, if you look at Dak Prescott, you look at Micah Parsons
Yeah.
to CeeDee Lamb, who do you give the contracts in order to from 1 to 3?
Man, to me, it's going to be CD for sure because he'll elevate whatever quarterback I have. He's that kind of receiver. I love Micah Parsons. He's a game changer. But you know what? The defensive development in college is actually it's improving. And I think that you could find a guy that could fill in a role, not like Micah, but you can make it work if Mike is gonna pigeonhole that much cap space to your whole team, it's not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. I think Micah would be the one that I wouldn't pay. Dak, the quarterback position, man, it's vital. It's vital to success. He would be 2 for me, and Micah would be 3.
Me and you agree. Absolutely. I've been saying that. I was arguing that with Josh on the phone before the show. I said, I'm going CeeDee Lamb. He's the best one, and I'm paying him whatever he wants. He wants to be the highest paid player besides a quarterback, then I'm giving him. Then Dak Prescott, and then Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons already came out and said that if you don't want me here, you don't want to give me an extension, a long-term deal, and making me the highest paid player, then send me to Pittsburgh. So he's already got 1 foot out. So he already knows that they're not going to give him the contract.
Right. And that's telling too. I want a guy who's there. I want a guy who wants to be there. I don't want to hear this talk of all this other stuff. I mean, that would just be me as a GM. If I'm going to spend millions upon millions of dollars and know that this player is going to hold me back from other things I can do with my team, this better be the cornerstone and the leader of my team. I'm not sure if Mike is that guy, even though his talent is through the roof.
So Tom Brady had some interesting comments last week. He said that quarterback play has gotten worse mechanically and fundamentally across the league in the last couple of years. So what are your thoughts as somebody that scouted a lot of quarterbacks?
Yeah, I do agree with him. And the whole thing is it's college is completely different. I mean, they scheme the receivers to get open. The reads are so quick for the quarterbacks. They got RPOs and just different ways that it's just a lot different. They don't have to look for defensive scheme coverages. They don't have to understand whether there's a peeking linebacker in the center of the field that's going to come on a blitz or check out the corner who's coming on the blitz because they're going to throw a bubble screen to the running back. It is completely different. So when you find a guy like Caleb Williams who can make plays, be a playmaker, but also step up in the pocket, understand his surroundings, and throw anticipatory throws, you got to take a guy like that. And there's not many of them, which we will be talking about quite a bit coming the 25 draft, because those quarterbacks are exactly what Tom Brady's talking about. That they just don't understand what they're seeing on the field, but they're not asked to do that at the college level. So it takes a little bit of time for them to grow.
I'm just going to let everybody know. I know I love Caleb Williams, but I'm going to tell you this. Don't be surprised if Bo Nix is the second best quarterback in this class. I think he fits perfectly with Sean Payton. He's going to be able to run that offense. It's a perfect fit for what they like to do.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. Which that sounds crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I threw Bo Nix's profile at the door when I was watching him at Auburn. Goes to Oregon. I had to freaking pull it out of my trash can on my desktop and redo the whole thing watching him. And I still didn't see it. I mean, his last game against Washington was probably the worst games I've seen. Horrible anticipatory throws, overthrows, underthrows. But man, you get him with a guy like Sean Payton, and Sean Payton signs off on a kid like this. They have a plan and they know how to use him. So you're absolutely right. I agree. The fit is perfect.
Speaking of a great fit, the Buffalo Bills like to trade away, draft picks to a team that always kicks their butt in the playoffs. And Xavier Worthy gets traded all the way to the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know what happened with Buffalo a couple of years ago. They traded Patrick Mahomes to the Kansas City Chiefs, and look what they've won ever since then.
Yeah.
They still haven't won a championship. I love Josh Allen, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. Let's just be honest. And now Xavier Worthy, you're giving him a weapon, one of the fastest guys we've ever seen, the fastest guy in the combine. What are your thoughts to this trade? Does this make Buffalo one of the dumbest teams in NFL history?
I would say right now, Yes. I mean, my God, man, Xavier Worthy, if you watch his film, I mean, there were some issues with his hands, but man, this guy is a natural separator with elite speed. And you team him up with Pat Mahomes, they already have Marquise Brown. So teams are going to have to scheme themselves to understand, who are we going to stop? Marquise Brown speed, Xavier Worthy speed, who's stopping Rashee Rice? You know what I mean? And then you have Travis Kelce. They just took Jared Wiley, who I think is going to be an underrated tight end. I like him a lot. He's got the same athletic type of profile as Travis Kelce does. They know they had a plan when they took Xavier Worthy, and the Bills royally screwed it up. I agree. That was a terrible idea.
So another move in the AFC West that was very interesting. The Raiders taking Brock Bowers at 13 after drafting Michael Mayer last year. Brock Bowers obviously athletically grading as one of the best tight end prospects we've seen. Do you like the fit with them, with the Raiders? Can they make it work at maybe not a traditional tight end?
Yeah, you know what? I actually do like the fit. I was a big Michael Mayer fan coming out. I mean, the guy was just so consistent. He's a phenomenal blocker. It's almost like they whatever weaknesses Michael Mayer has, Brock Bowers will make up for. And whatever weaknesses Brock Bowers has, Mayo will make up for. I actually like the way they complement each other quite a bit. And I think that the Raiders knew they couldn't pass up on a guy like Bowers. Like, he is I'm not going to say generational talent, but he's a difference maker on the field because he's so versatile with how he can be used as a tight end, as a runner. Even when I was scouting him, when he had the ball in his hands as a ball carrier, like, dude, I saw a little bit of Mike Allstott, like the way he ran.
Oh.
So his versatility is undeniable. And then they have Devontae Adams. Zamir White's going to be in the backfield, and he looks like he's going to be coming on strong this year. I think when they drafted Bowers, even they took value, but they had a plan in place, probably with 2 tight end sets. We're going to see a little bit more of this year. And I think that is absolutely going to help when you have Aiden McConnell as your quarterback going into the season.
We are talking to Devy Watch football prospect evaluator Jason DiRienzo, friend of the show, knows his football, knows a lot about fantasy. So you definitely have to check him out on Twitter and all the stuff that he's doing right now. You know, it's so interesting when we go and we look at, we always bring up the quarterback, but there's a quarterback here in New York that only played in 4 plays last year. 4 plays.
It's crazy.
It's crazy when everybody was on Hard Knocks and this guy runs on the field. He looked like Captain America. Everybody was like, oh, it's Aaron. Aaron's going to be there. He's going to help us win a Super Bowl. Yeah, right. And it goes down after 4 plays, and I was about to throw up. This year, the Jets made a lot of moves in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Hassan Reddick, who I think is a game changer if he actually gets on the field. We'll see what happens with this. There was a story coming out that he promised the Jets, no matter what happens, you trade for me, I'm going to play. I'm not going to give you this problem right now of contract dispute. But he lied to them. Of course, it's the Jets. They're a clown show. But anyways, you look at the organization now. They've added Mike Williams. You've added all these different offensive players. You have Breece Hall at 100% this year. An offensive line that's much, much better than they were last year. Where do you see the Jets? Do you think that the Jets, if healthy, can compete against the Kansas City Chiefs for the best team in the AFC?
I don't see why not. They've done so much work on that defense. You know, Sauce Gardner is going to have another year where he's just going to understand exactly how to be that shutdown corner. You know, they got Breece Hall. They took Braylon Allen in the middle of the rounds, who looks like he's going to be a solid RB2 for them coming out of Wisconsin. They also took Isaiah Davis later on in the draft, and they had Israel Bandakanda they took out of Pitt. So that backfield's pretty stacked. They have Mike Williams, who they took from the Chargers. They have Garrett Wilson, who's going to be a superstar. Malachi Corley, who they drafted in the 3rd round, can be that hybrid wide receiver running back type. There's weapons for days, and we're not even talking about Tyler Conklin, who could be a sleeper tight end in fantasy this year. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy and that field does him justice and doesn't knock him out the first game again, I think we're looking at a team that is definitely going to elevate. The only thing is the Chiefs, they just know how to win, man. And the Jets have not proven that they know how to do that. So I think
a way
that's
to
the
lose.
thing. Yeah, exactly. So let's put on paper, the Jets look good. In gameplay, they got to prove it. Where the Chiefs have proved it for the last 2 years as they're, you know, contending Super Bowl champions.
I don't trust Robert Saleh. That's the truth. I don't trust him.
It's hard to trust him. I get it. Yeah.
Listen, are you going to take receipts? Because he's taken a lot of them and failed to expand on them. So I could take all the receipts if I want. If I'm not winning games, those receipts aren't worth anything.
Don't be surprised if you get a letter in the mail. So you're going to be the offensive coordinator for a week.
I want to win the lottery. Okay, give me some lottery receipts, and maybe I come out winning a couple $1 million. I'll be happy with that. I wouldn't be happy watching Robert Saleh calling plays offensively for the New York Jets this year. By the way, they've got 3 guys calling plays now. Yay! That tells me the Jets are in a really good position offensively this year. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Let's see if they're on the same page with that play calling. That'll be a complete nightmare, right?
Well, let's leave it up to Nathaniel Hackett, okay?
Mm-hmm. Because he's done some wonders, huh?
Oh, wonders. Yeah, for Blake Bortles, that's about it.
Well, Blake Bortles for 1 year, pretty much. So a quarterback that still got hurt in New York, played more than 4 plays, but the New York Giants had Daniel Jones, who missed half the season with the bad injury that he had. And a lot of people thought the Giants were going to replace him. They go with Malik Neighbors instead. And they also draft Theo Johnson in the 4th round, replacing injured or retired Darren Waller. So what are your thoughts on those 2 draft picks?
You know what? I think ultimately that they were smart to stick with Daniel Jones. See if Malik Neighbors can elevate him, because Malik Neighbors is that guy too, man. I mean, I saw a lot of times on film where Jaden Daniels just didn't know what to do, and he was getting stuck, making bad reads, and Malik Neighbors, he got him out of a lot of trouble. So I think the Giants saw the same thing. I think they were super happy to get a guy like Malik Neighbors, who's an explosive playmaker with the ball in his hands. They can use him on endo rounds, so they can use him out of the backfield. He could be a deep threat, and he could be a huge weapon in the middle of the field. Theo Johnson needs some development. Penn State doesn't always use their tight ends properly, which is why the development takes a little bit while. But they have a great strength and conditioning program, which is why these tight ends like Mike Gesicki, Theo Johnson, they perform really well at the combine, but they play soft when they get to the NFL because they're just not prepared for it. So there's definitely development there with Theo Johnson, but I think this is a perfect time for the Giants not to make a stupid decision and overpay on another quarterback or draft a quarterback that they truly were just reaching on because they weren't in position to get one that they liked, to see what they have in Daniel Jones and see if it works out. And if not, start all over again, because this team has a lot to do anyway. It's not like they're a contender. So I think they made the right decision. I think Malik Neighbors was a phenomenal pick.
You want to know something really, really funny? There's a team out there that lost Aaron Donald in the offseason. He retires, he steps away, and I think they're even better than they were last year. Honestly, I love what they did in the draft. I think the Rams are set up very, very, very well. They're in a division that's interesting. I mean, they're with San Francisco. You're chasing them. You also have Seattle in the division. I don't trust Seattle with a new coach. I don't expect them to be a game-changing, game-breaker team. But the team I think that's going to challenge San Francisco in that division is the Rams. I think the Rams defense is good. Puka proved to everybody why he's probably one of the best secondary wide receivers we've seen in a very long time. This guy is explosive. He can do everything. He can run the ball. You can catch the ball in the backfield. You can use him as a running back. You can use him in so many different ways. He's fantastic. And then you have Cooper Kupp at 100% healthy this year. And if Matthew Stafford stays healthy with Williams and this offense, this defense, adding 2 Florida State guys, my Seminoles, I'm telling you right now, the Rams are as dangerous as any team right now in a very weak NFC.
No, I can't disagree with that either. I mean, I'm not a big defensive guy because I focus a lot on offense, but I'm a huge Braden Fisk guy and I'm a huge Jared Verse guy. When they got both of those guys, I mean, Fisk fits that undersized profile, just like Aaron Donald, high motor, high active hands, violent at the point of attack. He fits exactly what they took when they got Donald out of Pitt. And then they get Verse, who's a dynamic pass rusher, a bit undersized, but highly explosive, knows how to bend the edge. I can't disagree, man. You get a healthy Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford's back. Blake Corum looks like he's, going to be that guy who's going to help Kyron Williams out. So you don't have to worry about overusing an undersized running back with limited athleticism like Kyron Williams when you have Blake Corum, who's coming on. He's an older prospect, but that older prospect, he's matured. He understands what he's seeing, especially coming from Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. So I like it, and I can't disagree, man. I think this is a team that's getting underappreciated, and they're going to show everybody, hey, we're back and we're ready to rock.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the running backs, both for fantasy and for real football with the fits that they had. Jonathan Brooks in Carolina, Trey Benson in Arizona were some interesting ones. What are your thoughts on where they landed and what value they could be for fantasy as sleepers?
Yeah, I actually like Trey Benson a lot more than I like Jonathan Brooks. Brooks is going to have opportunity, but the skill set to me, I know everybody loved Brooks. I think he's a bit limited with what he can do being a creative runner. Trey Benson, man, when I watched him at Oregon, then going over to FSU, he's got speed for days for his size in the 220s, and I really think his pass catching ability is going to be huge. My comp for him was a more athletic James Conner, just the way he can be used, and that fits perfectly because James Conner, what's going to be like 30 years old. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Trey Benson early on and become a weapon for this offense and be utilized. I mean, Conner also gets hurt quite a bit. I would be taking Benson everywhere. I like Brooks. The opportunity is there, but he's also coming off a knee injury. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. And now he's entering the NFL, coming over from Texas, where he sat behind Bijan Robinson. Last year was his first year being a starter. So he's still got a lot of room to grow, where Benson, he had to put that team on his shoulders quite a bit with some of the injuries that they had at FSU, especially with Jordan Travis going down. I really like Trey Benson a lot.
We are talking to Devy Watch, football prospect, evaluator Jason DiRienzo. Last question for us before we let you go. We know you're a busy guy. If you look at this year's draft, 3 years from now, you're a guy that looks at this draft. Give me the 3 guys that you think are going to stand out from all the rest.
Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Malik Neighbors, honestly. I think the receivers, I think they nailed the receivers in this draft. I mean, it was a great receiver draft, but Ladd McConkey looks special to me, man. I got a chance to see him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. I got a chance to interview him, talk to him, watch his movement skills. Ladd McConkey can be Keenan Allen in that offense easily. He could be that, 100 reception guy, and he could, elevate the entire Chargers offense with how he could be used in the slot. He just needs to stay healthy. That was the biggest issue that he had at Georgia. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, I didn't have a lot of knocks on him. I was nitpicking when I was going through his profile. Maybe speed, because that's still unproven. But you see it on the field. His play speed's phenomenal. And Malik Neighbors, man, he's a difference maker. Like I said, he's so versatile, so explosive that it's hard to stop a guy like that. Those 3 guys I feel really good about if we're talking 3 years from now, where I can put my stamp on them.
Speedy's about to explode in his pants.
What's wrong, Speedy?
Well, he's a Giant fan, so he loves that. He's
I haven't seen good receiver play in quite a while.
Oh, you're gonna love Neighbors, man. I mean, if you look at the reports, it looks like he's already looking like a superstar, and we haven't even gotten to training camp yet. So, yeah, Malik Neighbors, he's phenomenal.
Speedy, you wear your chastity belt, okay?
I don't even know what that is, and I don't care.
Anyways, Jason, we really appreciate you. Guys, check him out. Devy Watch, football prospect evaluator. He's fantastic. Go on Twitter. You could follow Jason DiRienzo by following him on Twitter. How do you find you? Right over there at All Purpose Scout. Right there, guys. Right
Nailed
there.
It. Yep.
And you'll get to check out all the stuff that he's doing right now. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic work. Thank you for your time, Jason. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Well, you're great too, and you're fantastic. Oh, it's great. It's great. Great football conversation. We just went into basketball. Now we went into football. It's great. And Jason knows his stuff. He really, really does. Why don't we go to a quick break? When we come back, we'll get into more. Yes. And I know everybody wants us to stay with basketball. I want to get into this Udonis Haslem thing. So we'll get into Udonis Haslem and what he said about the Knicks fans, which I think it's hilarious, especially with Stephen A. Smith and Spike Lee listening to it. So we will get into that. And then we're going to get into some football. Ryan Garcia retires, which I think is so funny. So we'll get into that as well. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
That is right. I am back, and I'm Tommy Scoops, bringing you guys the Loudmouth Sports Minute and jumping into some NFL. As the NFL and NFLPA agree to slightly change the injured reserve rules for the 2024 season. The rule change allows teams who haven't designated players for return during the regular season could do so for up to 10 players into the postseason. Other NFL news, the 49ers announced that they are signing their rookie wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, as the team announced that they are signing the first-round draft pick for a rookie 4-year contract worth $12.5 million. And lastly, over in the MLB, the Brewers announced that they are losing their rookie pitcher, Robert Gasser, for the season. Gasser will be undergoing UCL surgery to repair his UCL, missing the remainder of the 2024 season. Lastly, going over into Scoops and Scores, where currently the only ongoing game right now is St. Louis and San Francisco, as St. Louis has a 4-3 lead over San Francisco at the bottom of the third inning. Currently, all the time I have for you guys right now, I'm going to kick it back to the boys for the continuation of the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Do you bend the meat? I'm not licking anyone. Oh, I will. You said smother. 99% of the world would too. I don't care. That's that is. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy. Petey, you got to get the number up here. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Guys, if you want to call the show, the number is 631-672-3108. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you, we've had some great guests, great content as always, but this is a story that I have to get into because I don't like the Miami Heat. We had, Tim Hardaway Jr. was on our show a couple of months ago. Senior. We love Tim. What?
Senior.
Yeah, whatever. Tim Senior, whatever. Tim Hardaway was on our show, and he was a guy I absolutely hated. I loved his interview. He's fantastic, but this guy I don't like, okay? I never liked Udonis Haslem, and he came out and said something very, very interesting. Longtime Miami Heat center Udonis Haslem said that Knicks fans are the most entitled fans in the NBA. He added that the Knicks fans believe they created everything that has to do with basketball. He took shots at Madison Square Garden crowds for being filled with actors and producers and not real basketball fans. He said that what they did with Philadelphia's Joel Embiid was disrespectful. Two Knicks fans, Stephen A. Smith and Spike Lee, were also shown giving reactions on the show. Here's what I'm going to say about Udonis Haslem. And I'm going to be very, very kind and collective with him because who the hell is Udonis Haslem? All right. Here's what I'm going to say. Knicks fans are crazy. I am not going to lie to you. I am a New York Knicks fan. And the Knicks didn't win anything. And every time they won and they beat Philadelphia, no matter if they were in Philadelphia or they were in New York at Madison Square Garden, they walked out of the game and they were cheering like they won a championship. Okay, that's the facts. It makes no sense, but that's New York Knicks fans. I'm not going to lie about it. That's the way New York fans take it. They always take it to another level. But I'm going to say this. To say that New York Knicks fans don't know basketball, to say that they disrespected Joel Embiid, do you remember what Joel Embiid did to, Mitchell Robinson, which hurt him for the rest of the playoffs? He grabbed his leg when he was trying to go up for a layup or try to get it for anything that you want to say. How about what he did to Josh Hart? How about what he did to Dante DiVincenzo? I'm just speaking the truth here. He slammed Jalen Brunson on his ass. This guy should have been kicked out of this series. The nutso of a player, all right? I'm just speaking the truth. Why would any Knicks fan want Joel Embiid to play on their team now? He's a great player. There's no question that he is. I'm not taking that away from him. But Joel Embiid is a nut job. And I don't know if Udonis Haslem was watching that series, but the Knicks were not trying to injure any of the 76ers. The Knicks fans follow their team. The fact that they sold out the Philadelphia arena because of the Knicks fans wanted to follow their team because the Madison Square Garden tickets were more expensive than the 76ers. That's shame on the 76ers. They should have sold their seats for double the amount like the New York Knicks and Madison Square Garden does. The fact that they want to go and watch their team, you're going to hate on them? I'm not telling you, Dennis, that you're wrong about how Knicks fans react. Yankee fans are like that too. Ranger fans are like that too. They follow their team. They cheer. They go crazy. They beat up other fans. That's what happens. It's professional sports. It's the way it's the way everything goes. But you're going to say that Knicks fans believe that they created everything? Hey, listen, nobody said anything about the Knicks fans creating anything. But I will say this. How many times have you heard that New York is the Mecca of basketball? All right. You haven't heard that LA is the Mecca of basketball. You haven't heard Chicago was the Mecca of basketball. You hear New York. Now, that doesn't mean that New York is the place to go if you want to be an NBA player. That is not true. How many New York guys became superstars in the NBA? Not many of them. Okay. That's the facts. They're just not. You could say whatever you want about Carmelo Anthony. He was born in Brooklyn, but he did not live in Brooklyn. He is from Maryland. All right. I'm just speaking the truth here as a Knicks fan. We all know about Marbury. Marbury was a great player. He really was. Was he an elite player in the league? Maybe 1 or 2 years. He was not a great player in the NBA. Now in China, he's a star. He's a legend. He's got a statue built up in front of him. I mean, you could praise him in China. His sneakers were cheap too. They were like $1 each. The Knicks fans go overboard. But to take shots at them, let's go to Miami fans. What do Miami fans know? What do they know about basketball? Besides, I don't know, trying to cheat and draw LeBron James to come from the Cavaliers and steal LeBron James to win championships. That's what you did. Shaquille O'Neal, stealing Shaquille O'Neal from the Lakers. You didn't win a championship until you did that. What did you do? As an organization, what have you done? Now, you've won more championships than the Knicks. There's no question that they have. But the New York Knicks haven't had stars like LeBron James. They had Patrick Ewing. And what did Patrick Ewing do for the Knicks? He didn't win a championship. Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire? Amari Stoudemire was at the tail end of his career. How many stars have the Knicks had over the last 20 years? Jalen Brunson just became a star. You're going to tell me that the Knicks have had all the luck in the world? Nobody wants to play in New York because nobody wants to deal with the stress. Nobody wants to deal with the fanhood. Nobody wants to deal with the press. Nobody wants to deal with social media.
There's a lot of areas to this that is just wrong on so many levels. First of all, regardless of how the team is run, Miami's better run than the Knicks because the Knicks are only getting developed run more recently. The Miami Heat fans are the same fans that left Game 6 of an NBA Finals game against the Spurs when they thought it was over. And what does Ray Allen do? Hit a miracle shot after they get a rebound. And you would never see Knicks fans do that kind of thing. I'm not saying there aren't going to be people that leave. A couple random people might leave. But Miami fans were going out in flocks because they knew that they thought that game was over. You would never see that from Knicks fans. So that's number one. Number two, anyone sticking up for Joel Embiid for what he did in the playoffs is just ridiculous.
Let's not get into Philadelphia fans who like to eat horse crap on the ground, okay? I mean, seriously, when they win a Super Bowl. I mean, we've had NFL players that played for Philadelphia that won the Super Bowl with those teams actually not even know that, okay? That's sick in them. That made them sick, okay? It makes me sick. But, hey, you know what? Oh, because they're 76er fans and nobody likes New Yorkers, that's the reason why. How about Boston fans? How about Boston fans? All the Boston fans that we've heard over the past. Boston writers that have been on a show. Boston players that have said certain things about the fans, okay? Are you going to tell me I'm a liar? Every fan's crazy. Every team has a crazy fan here and there. Every team has a following of cults, okay? That's what everybody thinks. The NBA has cults, and the NFL has cults. Give me a break, guys. We all know the situation for what it is, all right?
And also two more things about you, Udonis Haslem. Bit of history. The New York Knicks played in the first NBA game in the league's existence in 1947 against the Toronto Huskies.
And you probably were playing then because you played for like 30, 40 years.
Who knows?
I mean, seriously.
Who knows?
This guy's had what, a 25, 26? Yeah, the guy never retired.
His rookie year was like 04 before they won their championship or something like
I mean, it's ridiculous. The guy's played so long in the NBA, and what has he done? Yeah, he's won championships, but he had nothing to do with any of those championships. He just sits there because he had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, this guy, Chris Bosh, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, seriously, what have you done? and you're going to take shots at the New York Knicks fans. Why? The Knicks didn't do anything. The Knicks haven't done anything to you. Why are you bringing up the Knicks? What is it with everybody wanting to bring up the Knicks? I don't know. Maybe because Stephen A. Smith's a Knicks fan, or even Spike Lee. Hey, listen, you want to take shots at the Knicks fans, that's fine. Even Tim Hardaway, when he was on a show, he loves the Knicks fans. Yeah. He loves them. He loves the fact that the Knicks fans hated him. Why are you taking shots at the Knicks? Because they hated you? But guess what? Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. 20 years from now, nobody's gonna even know who Udonis Haslem is. They don't know who Tim Hardaway is. He's a Hall of Famer. Udonis Haslem, the only reason why you're gonna go to Hall of Fame because you're the oldest player to play in the NBA.
Yep. And number 4 for the last comment you made, that the MSG crowds are filled with all these actors and celebrities and stuff like that. You're gonna say Miami doesn't have any of those? They have Pitbull. They have The Rock. I mean, I'm sure you'll know the names better than I do with the musicians. There's a ton of musicians in Miami. Like you're saying, they don't go to Miami Heat games. You're not saying you're not going to say that the Lakers don't have actors, Hollywood actors in the crowds too, but no, only to single out MSG.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's just so funny when you look at the point and what everybody's trying to make. And I know Miami fans love to hate the Knicks fans. So do the LA fans, because they hate the Knicks fans. And, if you want to sell your fandom, like somebody we all know, Evan Permuta, who was like during COVID time and there was nothing to talk about. So you know what? He sold his fandom on eBay. Who cares? Okay. The fact is, the Knicks fans are passionate. New York fans are passionate. So are other fans. I'm not going to lie. They're passionate. And you can say whatever you want. You don't like it? Tough luck, Haslem. I don't know why you're bringing it up. It has nothing to do with the offseason. The fact that you're bringing it up only pisses me off because the Knicks went up and down this season. The only thing I can say that they're going to go now next season is up, because they're that good of a team. And I'm excited for next year. Excuse me. Several ESPN analysts say it would be crazy for Dak Prescott to sign a new contract right now. Host Mike Greenberg and reporter Kimberly Martin both believe it should be Dak Prescott's last year with the Cowboys if they don't give him a $60 million per year contract. Former offensive lineman Damian Woody said that Dak has all the leverage, but the Cowboys brand makes it more beneficial to be their quarterback. Fox Sports host Nick Wright says that the Cowboys should commit to Trey Lance, saying he's 60% of Dak Prescott's talent at 5% of the cost. I'm going to attack Nick, man. The Cowboys currently have about $12.3 million of cap space. First of all, I have to get into the Nick quote. First of all, what has Trey Lance done? That's my question, Nick. And saying that he's more talented, Trey Lance lost his job to a 7th round draft pick, the last pick in the draft. You had a chance to win the job. You had Garoppolo hurt, sitting on the bench. You had everything, and you couldn't stay healthy. In the 3 years you've been in the league, how many bad injuries have you had?
You couldn't even beat out Sam Darnold.
You couldn't even beat out Sam Darnold for the job. And then you get traded to the Cowboys. And you're going to tell me you're better, 60% better than Dak Prescott? Okay, let's look at Dak Prescott's numbers, because obviously you guys are just completely blind to see what Dak Prescott has done in his past. And the numbers would tell me Dak Prescott in the last 3 years has been a top 5 quarterback. Last 3 years, he's been a top 5 quarterback. Is he a good playoff quarterback? I mentioned this to Josh. How many great playoff quarterbacks have there been in the last 5 years? Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. We all know Kirk Cousins is not. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. Who's the other one? I mean, there is none. There's about 4 or 5 guys at most. You're just because you're a good regular season quarterback doesn't mean that you're a good playoff quarterback. Justin Herbert, is he a good playoff quarterback? He's proven to not be. Trevor Lawrence won 1 game. There is none. Dak Prescott is a good player. Now, is he a winner? Only time will tell. He's got to win. He's not going to win until he has this team moving in the right direction. If Jerry Jones has his team moving in the right direction, Dak does have the leverage here. He does, because if the Cowboys don't sign him, somebody else will. If Dak has been a top 5 to top 7 quarterback when it comes to statistics right now in the last 5 years, which he has been 3 to 5 years, he's going to demand $60 million. If you're going to give Trevor Lawrence 55, he's better than Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence is not even close to Dak Prescott. He's not even close. Now, Joe Burrow's on another level, but Dak Prescott he's probably the best second-tier quarterback out of the list of second-tier quarterbacks. And you're not going to argue that. He is. And I know a lot of people don't like the Cowboys, and they want to throw the Cowboys under the bus. They stink. That. Nick, I don't know what your takes are. You say that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. That's a joke. You're going to tell me that Trey Lance is better than Dak Prescott? The only thing you're drinking is Hennessy, because the only Hennessy you should be drinking is the Hennessy that Speedy's going to be sitting right next to your mother.
Well,
there you go.
Here's what he is drinking. He must be drinking that
Speedy,
Hennessy.
are you going to hang out with his mom?
No, but the beef might, because that's a very beef take based on how much he was hating Dak.
I think I'd hang out with his mom. I would be cool.
All right,
with that.
go ask the beef. Like the beef, what he said is literally what the beef called us with hating Dak Prescott.
Beef
all
it,
year.
baby. Beef it.
Move on from Dak. Move on to Trey Lance. He's ready right now.
I'm speaking the truth here. There is no way Nick Wright actually believes that Trey Lance is 60% better than Dak Prescott for 5% of the cost. If he believes that, that's a good take. That's a crazy take that's never going to sell, because I could take the snot out of my nose and try to make it stick on the wall. That has a better chance to stick than that. Okay. How about the crap that the Eagle fans like to eat off the ground? I think that would stick more than this. That is crazy take. That take would not sell to anybody that knows anything about the Cowboys or Dak Prescott. That is a terrible take. As far as Dak Prescott is concerned and Greenberg, I do believe this is the last year we're going to see Dak Prescott on the Cowboys, because I think he's going to go to the Miami Dolphins. That's where I think he's going to go.
Signings, right?
I think he's going to be a free agent. He's going to go there. They're not going to sign Tua. Tua's going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua goes to the Cowboys and Dak goes to the Miami Dolphins. He has a better chance of winning right now in Miami than he does with the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is sensational, but when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Odell Beckham and all the weapons that they have over there, they're in a better situation offensively than the Cowboys are. And the Cowboys are going to have to decide what they're doing with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's going to get the money. They're right now in salary hell. It makes a lot of sense that he is going to be in a driver's seat. And we all know the best quarterback that's going to be available next year in free agency is Dak Prescott. And there are going to be teams lining up for Dak Prescott. So for anybody to think that Dak Prescott is not going to get to $60 million, shame on you, because he's going to be sailing away. Take me away. Speedy, why don't you sing for us? No, don't sing for us. Christopher Cross, baby, sailing away, because he's going to be sailing away with that cash, baby.
Yeah, and he has all the leverage because he's had 3 really good years in a row. And that kind of thing that the Cowboys cannot just let him go and say, all right, we're going to go trust Trey Lance all of a sudden. No, they can't do that. Trey Lance is too raw, and there's so many unknowns with the rest of this roster with everything else that they lost. So you can't just all of a sudden say, all right, we're going to not pay Dak Prescott $60 million and all of a sudden not have a good backup plan. Yeah, maybe Tua does go there, fine. But the leverage is all with Dak Prescott because of the year that he had and the value that he brings when there's just so many other players that are question marks on the roster.
And Keith is saying Dak is top 10, not top 5. Again, I'm not saying he's a top 5. His numbers would tell you he is a top 5 quarterback in the last 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. His numbers would tell you. That doesn't mean he's a top 5, Keith. I don't know what. Keith, why do you guys. This is a problem. And Jeff does the same thing. So does Snug. Why do you guys take words out of my mouth? I said his numbers would tell you he's a top 5 quarterback. That doesn't mean he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't know why everybody has to argue anything if you're not listening to me.
All right.
I don't understand it.
Keith also says it's about Super Bowls. Okay. That doesn't mean
how many people have won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years?
No, I understand that because
how many people have won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years?
Yeah. The Chiefs and Patriots and Brady with the Bucks too are hockey up all the Super Bowls. So you're not going to be able to use that as leverage either. So should the Bills have let Josh Allen go because he didn't win a Super Bowl in the first 3 years of his career and they should have let him walk when they have a really bad quarterback history? No, the Bengals were not going to do the same thing with Joe Burrow. They paid him. And Dak Prescott is in that same kind of position. Now, obviously, the Cowboys have found better quarterbacks throughout their franchise history. I'm not denying that, but they're not in position right now where their roster is super amazing. Last year was their peak. They had so many good players on defense. They had so many good players on that offensive line that played well for them last year. Like you said, the receiving depth still is a question mark. Running back still.
They have no receiving depth.
I know that. And Dak Prescott
nothing.
elevated that.
They got Zeke Elliott as their second-tier guy.
A 29-year-old Ezekiel Elliott, yeah.
29-year-old washed-up guy that got $16 million a year a couple of years ago by the great Jerry Jones. Give him an extension. Congratulations to them. They got. I'm not taking shots at Zeke. The only reason why they brought Zeke back is it's Dak's best friend.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only reason why. Bring fish in. I'd like to hear what fish thinks.
Before we do that, I want to read Keith's other comment. I'm saying he will never win a Super Bowl. And maybe that is the case.
I don't believe that.
Maybe he's not a good playoff quarterback because he's mostly not. But not every playoff game.
If Miami had Dak Prescott last year, do they beat Kansas City?
I still think no, but
I think they do.
The game's closer.
I think they do.
But nevertheless,
I think they do.
Not every playoff game that the Cowboys have lost in recent years was Dak Prescott's fault. He didn't play well against the 49ers the second time, fine. He played all right the first time. He played great against the Packers, the game they lost his rookie year. They almost came back and won that game. They were down 21-3.
All right, Fish, what are your thoughts?
Well, it wasn't really the offense that did them in last year. It was that defense at the end of the season in the playoffs. He came in second in the MVP last year. I know we're saying he's top 10, and I agree, but he did come in second in the MVP. His stats were that good last season. So to say he's not one of these better players, better than a guy like Tua, I would agree with that, especially with Tua's injury concerns, even though Dak's had his injuries too. I still can't shake, that picture we've talked about in the past of Tua, not this past year where he stayed healthy, but the year before where he seemed like he was going to die on the field from getting too many headshots. So if you get to compare to a guy like Tua, who I would argue is fringe top 10, top 15, I'd take Dak every time. Now, he doesn't seem to win the big one, and he seems to choke when it matters, like every good Cowboys quarterback I've watched in my life since Troy Aikman. So, as a Giants fan, I enjoy having Dak on the other side of the field, except for the 2 times we play him, because he's always going to give the business to the Giants. It's always been that way because he is one of these better guys. You can't deny it. If you have him, you're not so worried about executing offense like you would be with certain quarterbacks that I may have been watching the last bunch of years in New York. That's all it is. He's a better guy.
No way
he just is.
No way did they beat KC. How about the Packer game last year? Again, that wasn't only him. That didn't play well.
The defense sucked. Micah Parsons, where was he in that game? Everybody keeps saying Micah Parsons deserves 36, 37 million. Where was he in that game? Where was the defense? Where was the secondary? I mean, I could have thrown the ball down the field like Jordan Love. Everybody was open. I mean, if I put the fans on the field, they would have been open too. I mean, seriously, that's a joke.
Keith, it's not like they lost the game like 13-10.
He made mistakes. He forced the ball in bad plays.
Right. I'm not saying he played well, but I'm not saying he's the only one that struggled.
I mean, Jordan Love almost made it to the NFC title game.
They should have won that game too. Yeah,
they could have went to the NFC title game. I stop. I mean, they should have beaten San Francisco, and who knows? Maybe Green Bay goes to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl, and shock the world. I mean, I wouldn't have bet on it.
Beat the Chiefs in the regular season. You never know.
It's crazy. I mean, obviously, you have your own takes, and you might not think it, but Dak is not a good playoff quarterback. But who is? Who is? I know everybody wants to sit here and argue it, but there's nothing to argue about that. I think it's crazy. It really is.
So Keith, from also your logic, would you have let go of Lamar Jackson last year if you were the Ravens? Like, it's the same logic. Yeah, he's not a good playoff quarterback, but he does so much for elevating that offense. Look at all the injuries they had last year with their running backs and Mark Andrews. And Dak Prescott's done a lot of that over the years with the Cowboys too.
NFL Network reports that because of the big quarterback contracts, the NFL owners are considering a separate salary cap just for the quarterbacks. This number would be judged with percentages, and owners are discussing the maximum percentage, which would be by 14. B14. The Bengals contract with Joe Burrow is currently 25% of their salary cap, and it's the highest in the league. The owners have mentioned they don't want to structure a restriction of the NBA max contracts, which will represent 25% of the league salary cap. This year's total salary cap is $255.4 million, up $30.6 million from last season. I think this is a good idea. I think that the NFL definitely needs to look at this because it's affecting NFL teams to bring back
some of their players. If you are paying 25% of your salary cap to a quarterback, you're positioned not to bring back your star running back or your star defensive lineman or your star offensive lineman because you don't have the money. These guys are demanding big contracts. Now, what does this do to the cap? Now, if you separate this, now you're going to have offensive linemen that are going to want a lot of money. You want a defensive lineman that are going to want a lot of money. How does this work? How does the cap maximum, to the minimum work when it comes to negotiating deals to even these corners that are going to want big money in the future? I mean, Sauce Gardner is going to be expecting 140, 150 million by the time he becomes a free agent because he's been in the last 2 years a top number one corner in all of football. When you look at numbers don't lie. And that's the way these agents are looking at it. Now, if you look at the quarterback play, do all these quarterbacks deserve this kind of money? Now, if you create a cap that separates the quarterback, now you have to look at the cap and say, does this quarterback deserve this kind of money? That's the thing, because now you're maximizing what a quarterback should make and what a quarterback shouldn't make. So now you're not looking at the cap and you're not kind of judging what cap and how you're going to cap the quarterback to add the players that you want for free agency. And how does this help free agency? Because if this takes away the quarterback situation, how are the other teams going to let go of those other players that now you can re-sign, now you can extend? So now how does this help the free agents, and how does this make free agency open up and make teams better? I don't know. That turns into now looking at the draft, how important it is to draft certain players and how you educate yourself on how you're scouting players when you're going into the draft. It's crazy. I think this definitely is going to help the NFL, and it'll open up options for teams to decide what players they want to keep and what players they shouldn't. But again, at the quarterback position, these quarterbacks are making a lot of money. And I've been saying this. We're going to see $100 million quarterback very, very soon. In the next 7 to 8 years, we're going to see $100 million quarterback. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, he's the first quarterback to get the $500 million contract. Now they extended him and changed it because he wants more for his buck every single year. If Patrick Mahomes keeps winning like this at a young age, in 3 or 4 years, Patrick Mahomes could be making $75, $80 million with the extension that he's going to get. It's all about winning, okay? And that's what these owners are looking at. If you win Super Bowls and you're making a long run in the playoffs, there's more money in their pockets. They have an opportunity to look at their team and say, okay, this is the guy, or these are the guys that are going to help us take it to the next level. And I think right now with the quarterback position, it's the most important position in professional sports. And if you look at what the Bengals did this year without Joe Burrow, they were a shell of their team and what they were. And if you look at all these teams, their secondary quarterbacks are nowhere close to their number one quarterbacks. And that, to me, is alarming. And now that's why these rules are changed. And that's why the NFL decided to change these rules to protect the quarterback. If you do this, does this help the options of not changing the rules when it comes to quarterbacks, and gives the defenses more options to go after the quarterback? You have to look at it and weigh your options, because these quarterbacks, I understand with the contracts and stuff like that, these rules are changing the game. I don't like the change of the game. I want the game to be obviously better and more fun to watch. But again, it's taking away from the great part of the game. And defense is just as important as the offense, especially when you go into the playoffs. Defenses win championships.
Yeah, it'll help level out, I think, some of the parity as well, which I think if you have a good quarterback, it's in today's game, very easy to be consistently good for a while. Like most of the teams that have won Super Bowls, even gotten to the Super Bowls, have top quarterbacks now. But that'll allow, if let's say the cap number is, let's say 18%, hypothetically, that can allow a team like the Miami Dolphins, which have big contracts and wide receivers, to still have to pay a good quarterback a good amount of money, but not as much as they would have to pay hypothetically Tua right now. So that kind of thing can maybe balance things out to have more positional strengths be an emphasis. Like you were saying, corner, edge rushers getting money, defensive tackles getting a lot of money too. I'm curious what the number is going to be. It's going to be interesting, but I agree. I think it's good to help these other players get paid, and it's good to help balance the parity a little.
It's the rules too. Because to me, when these quarterbacks, when you're protecting your team, because you have to protect these quarterbacks, you're putting 55, 60, 70 million into these players, and you're saying this could affect my cap. So what am I going to do if I lose that quarterback? Look at the Jets. They had Zach Wilson taking over. You don't want to be in that position. So now if you separate the quarterback, then you're going to have to decide, okay, I'm going to pay this quarterback, but I have to look at that secondary quarterback. If I'm willing to pay my quarterback $55 million, I only have $65 million or $60 million to pay my quarterback for the year. I have to decide, okay, are you going to take a pay cut? If I sign you to a 4-year deal, if I could get a backup here to play behind you in case something happens with an injury, do you want to win championships or do you want to get as much money as you possibly can? Because if you're making $40 million a year, you're set for life. Your family is set. But if you want to win championships, a.k.a. Tom Brady, you're going to find a way to negotiate and figure out a way that it will benefit your team and benefit yourself in the future.
Before we get to our guest, Keith says, yes, he would not have paid Lamar Jackson, and that is a great idea. Spot on. Good for the league.
I really do think that this would absolutely help the league, and it'll open up options for teams in the offseason. So it's definitely interesting. We'll see how it works. I do believe they'll figure out something of these lines. And with the cap and with all the money and the new television deals that they're going to get in the future with Google, they have it with Prime now, where they have Thursday night football games and certain options that the NFL is going to have in the future, where there's going to be money to be made in so many different areas. And Roger Goodell's just making more and more money for himself, not for the league. I'm just kidding. He's making money for the league, but he's putting more money in his pockets. Before we go to our guest, your thoughts, Fish, to this whole idea with the NFL?
I think he's frozen.
He's frozen. There you go. So we don't have Fish. Right. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have our very special second guest. We will be talking to Dynasty Nerds head of content, Garret Price, our friend. We've been trying to get him on, and unfortunately, he's been busy. But now we have him. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
Again, it's the top of the hour, and I am Tommy Scoops, bringing you guys the Loudmouth Sports Minute. And jumping into some NBA, the Lakers forward LeBron James announced he was uninvolved in head coach's hiring. After the team announced today the hiring of JJ Redick as the new head coach earlier today, James said he didn't have any part in no conversations with front office regarding JJ Redick's hiring. Other NBA news, the Bulls are looking to possibly trade guard Zach LaVine. Teams in active discussions are the Utah Jazz and the Philadelphia 76ers to possibly land the veteran guard. And lastly, in the NBA, Pistons plan to interview 3 head coaching candidates after the firing of Monty Williams yesterday. The candidates include such as Mavericks assistant Sean Sweeney, Timberwolves assistant Mike Nori, and the former Cavaliers head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. Going over to Scoops' scores, the only game going on in the MLB is St. Louis having a 5-3 lead over San Francisco, getting into the bottom of the 5th inning. That is all the time I have for you guys right now. Kicking it back to the boys for their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Spank it. I want you to slide it right in. It's good for both. What? You want to go burn a bush in a crab? You said smother. Let's not. No sheriff who can hide. 99% of the world would too. 631-672-3108. Our soundboards, Tommy Scoops, ladies and gentlemen. Go to our website. You're listening. Obviously, you know what you're listening to, the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks. You can see it right on the screen. Speedy Petey. We have Garrett right over here, but go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our shows and all the local listings for our show is go to our website by going to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. It is hot, guys. We have the air conditioning blasting. By the way, love your show, bro. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Harry. Be Harry 16. We love you. We love you too. And I know you're going to love this guy too. He's fantastic. Stay on. And we're very happy to have him on. We are now talking to Dynasty Nerds head of content, Garret Price. Garret, what's up, buddy?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me back on. I know it's been a little bit since I've been on the last time, but it's good to be back. and glad we were able to make it work.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you something, Garrett. We've had so many guys on the show, fantasy guys, and you are one that really pops into my head. And the reason why you pop into my head is because of some of the crazy takes you've had in the past, okay? And I remember you very, very well because you have an interesting personality. And no wonder why you run the content of your organization, Dynasty Nerds. So I'm not surprised. So why don't we get into the craziness of the NFL? Because there's a lot to get into as we have, OTAs are starting. You have Hard Knocks, and that comes to the Hard Knocks because the thought of Hard Knocks, and now I think it is the Giants and the Chicago Bears, if I'm not mistaken. And the Chicago Bears are really the talk of the NFL. Caleb Williams, obviously being drafted as the number 1 pick. You have Allen. You have all these guys that they added. Odunze. This team is really just completely different than they were last year. I do not like Eberflus. I don't think he's a good coach. I think you should have went elsewhere in the offseason. Bring in one of these top line coaches. If it was open, Jim Harbaugh would have been there. I guarantee you he would have taken that job over the Chargers. Just my opinion. But your thoughts to the Chicago Bears. How good could this Chicago Bears team be in a division that's loaded?
Yeah, they have an opportunity to be a very good football team, but it's all going to come down. You guys just spent an entire segment talking about how we figure out the quarterback position and how to pay him. It's going to come down to Caleb Williams. Like, he's the one that's going to steer this ship. And we've seen plenty of quarterbacks that come in with the first overall pick, high expectations, and totally flop. And then we have other guys that come in and just completely take off. So it's going to really come down to what happens with Caleb Williams. He's going to be the straw that stirs this drink. But I have yet to remember a situation where a number 1 overall quarterback comes into a situation this good, where you already have an established star receiver in DJ Moore. They have an additional top 10 pick where they take a Rumo Dunze. Then they have a Keenan Allen, one of the best route runners, a guy that can teach these young guys a thing or two. Just a fantastic situation coming into. Then they went out in free agency. They got themselves DeAndre Swift as well. So, I mean, it's like a fantasy football team that they built there in Chicago. So a great opportunity for Caleb Williams very early on to have the weapons that he needs to be successful. So yeah, it's ultimately going to come down to Caleb Williams, but they did an amazing job, which they did not do for Justin Fields, by the way. It was the complete opposite situation for Justin, but a great opportunity for Caleb Williams.
Well, how much crying are you going to see in this Hard Knocks? I mean, Caleb likes to cry. I mean, is his mom going to be on the sidelines? Is he going to cry to her every time he loses? I mean, we saw a lot of that this year. I like his enthusiasm. I like his, his passion, but I don't want to see any crying. You're a football player. You're an NFL player. I don't want to see any crying on a football field.
Yeah, it was definitely a little different, but he's a different cat altogether. The dude's painting his nails. He's just a different bird. And, the last time that there was somebody that was that far outside the box in Chicago, dude was wearing a wedding dress. Dude was painting his hair a bunch of different colors, and the city loved him. The city embraced him. And so if Caleb Williams gets them W's, half the men in Chicago are going to be painting their nails to be like Caleb Williams because they're going to want to emulate what that guy does. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to W's. If he brings it, they're going to be cool with it. If not, you're going to hear all about the weakness and all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to come down to whether he brings W's or not.
Speedy, I have a question for you. I mean, obviously, if the Giants, if one of these Giants players really become that superstar team and superstar player, would you wear a dress if one of the players wear a dress? I mean, seriously, would you wear a dress? I think
probably not.
We can show what you look like. I mean,
it was hard enough when I lost that bet.
Fish, I sent you the picture. Why don't you post up the picture of how Speedy look like in a dress? That's pretty funny.
Thank you. So the origin story of that is I always like to make fun of the Chargers because I call them the least clutch team in football. I picked against them one time. The first year I was with this network, I was forced to wear a dress, unfortunately. So that's what he's referencing.
We definitely got to show that. It's pretty fun.
Yes, for the rides for the soundboard, please not. So Garrett, I know you're an Ohio State fan, and Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out of the draft this year goes to the Arizona Cardinals. He had that lawsuit with Fangraphs or whatever that was, which caused a lot of distraction. What are your thoughts to him and the fantasy value of him I'm seeing in the second and the third round so far? What are your thoughts of that?
Yeah, Marvin Harrison. I mean, when we're talking about just a pure prospect, so I've been evaluating rookies coming out of college into the NFL for 5 years now. And over those 5 years, we've had a lot of good receivers come out. Guys like Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, Justin Jefferson, all these big-time receivers, a lot of the biggest names in the NFL have come out in the past 5 years. And as far as just college prospect grade, how they performed in college, what I saw on tape, he has the highest score out of any of those guys so far. So as far as a pure prospect goes, he has all the traits. He has all the abilities. He has the bloodline, did it at a big-time school. Like, he checks every single box. Now, you have to see what he's going to do in the NFL, but I think he's going to be a very successful player. You put him into this offense with Kyler Murray, and Marvin Harrison Jr. actually is a lot like a former stud receiver they had in DeAndre Hopkins. So I think that we're going to see him mesh into this offense beautifully. He's going to get peppered with targets, and I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. He's going to be a great fantasy asset long-term. It's tough to say what they're going to do as rookies. You never know quite what that's going to look like, but within the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be one of the top 5 wide receivers in football, no doubt.
We are talking to Dynasty Nerds head of content, Garret Price, a friend of the show. We've been trying to get him on for the last couple of months. We finally have him on. I know you guys are enjoying this. It's great content, but there's another great player that everybody keeps talking about what he did last year, and that's Jordan Love. He just broke after Thanksgiving. Everybody was like running him out. All the Green Bay Packer fans were booing him. He comes in, he beats the Lions on Thanksgiving in Detroit, and then all of a sudden, this guy just takes off. Everything started to just come to him, and he was unbelievable. And even in the playoffs, I mean, he almost beat San Francisco and almost went to an NFC title game. What would have happened in the NFC title game? Who knows? Your thoughts to Jordan Love in his sophomore second year. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks in their second year kind of fall off. Everybody thinks he's going to go up. I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's Brett Favre, but he could be right between these guys and be a great player and win a Super Bowl for the Green Bay Packers. Do they have the real deal?
Yeah, it's really interesting because they had him come in and they had him sit for years, right? They had him sit for years. And the only other top 10 pick at quarterback, the only other top 10 picks at quarterback that came in and sat more than a season, there's 3 of them, okay? 3 guys are Carson Palmer, Phillip Rivers, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the only 3 top 10 picks to come in and sit for the entire rookie campaign. So he's in pretty good company. He showed a lot in his rookie campaign. Do I think that he's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes? No, I don't. But I think he is a very gifted quarterback. I think he's a very talented quarterback. And especially considering, and I don't think he gets enough credit for this, when you look at that wide receiver core last year, it's similar to what C.J. Stroud did. Very, very young wide receiver core. Nobody knew if any of these guys were going to end up being anything. A lot of second, third round type of picks. No Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase's. Like, nobody like that. Just a lot of second and third round picks. And that's tough for a rookie quarterback or a first-year quarterback to come into that type of situation and a ball out. And you got to give him credit where credit's due. He made it happen. And so, if for somebody that, similar to you, I was very skeptical on Jordan Love. Overall, I'm buying in. And when we look at from a fantasy football perspective, Jordan Love was a top 5 quarterback last season. When you look at top 6 quarterbacks overall in fantasy football, if they're a top 6 quarterback once, 70% of the time, they're going to be a top 6 guy again. So not just a quarterback one, we're talking an elite top 6 difference-making quarterback for a fantasy football team. So as much as I was very lukewarm on the guy, I got to admit, he's shown me a lot of things to help me say, I think he's going to be pretty good.
I'm just letting you know, I liked Jordan Love. I love that the Green Bay Packers moved up from the second round to get him in at the end of the third round. So I did actually like him, and I'm not surprised that he has developed. But for all the fans out there that were booing him and giving up on him, I didn't think that he was bad. I just thought that he needed something that gave him that step. And it shows you that their coach over there, and I'm not gonna mention Mike LaFleur, but Matt LaFleur actually knows what he's doing, actually knows how to develop a quarterback, because he's the one that developed Jordan Love. He's the one who wanted Jordan Love. And if Jordan Love turns into this guy that everybody thinks that he could turn into, I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to their coach, not just everybody around him. He's the one that developed him.
Yeah, No, that's an excellent point. And I don't think we often consider coaching enough how big of an impact it is for these players and for their development. Certain guys, they're going to succeed no matter what. You could put them in an abysmal situation, they're going to succeed. They're just that good. But there's a lot of other players where it is very landing spot dependent. What kind of environment is that locker room? What kind of coach do they have? Who's calling the plays? Those type of things really matter. If you're not a special freak, like next level athlete, those types of things matter a lot. And LaFleur gets a lot out of his players. He's done a great job with that team. And it's good to see that it's not just, because we've seen other guys in the past that will get head coaching jobs because they coached this quarterback. But really, it was just the quarterback doing all the work. It had nothing to do with them. This wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. As great as he's been over his career, it wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love's doing it too, and that shows you LaFleur's doing something right.
So one of the upticks we've seen in football has been the young tight ends playing very well. Obviously, Sam Laporta had the big year last year. You saw guys like Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, a nice year in Dallas. And now you got Brock Bowers this year getting drafted by the Raiders. Yeah. What are your thoughts to the fantasy value and the landing spots of some of these younger tight ends upside-wise?
Yeah, this is one of the more exciting young tight end years we've had in a long time, because we all know about Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce's been really freaking good for a really long time. Mark Andrews really established himself as one of the better tight ends in football over the past couple years. But then after that, it's really been who's going to step up, who's going to be the next guy. We really wanted Kyle Pitts to be that guy, and after year one, we thought he was. Past 2 years, he's not really produced like we hoped, but now he gets Kirk Cousins as a starting quarterback, and we saw what Kirk Cousins did for TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson went from just a middle-of-the-road fantasy asset to a top-tier fantasy asset at the tight end position. Points per game-wise last year, one of the top overall tight ends in TJ Hawkinson. So we have guys like Kyle Pitts that could step up quite a bit this year. Mentioned Brock Bowers, the rookie. I mean, when you talk about what he did as a true freshman at Georgia in the biggest games and national championship moments, like the kid was born for these moments. He's basically a big slot receiver is really what he is. He's going to be an excellent fantasy asset. Then you have guys like you mentioned, Trey McBride over in Arizona. We've got Dalton Kincaid, who I think is going to have a massive year with Stephon Diggs gone.
You forgot the best one. You forgot the best one, Sam Laporta. That's what I'm talking about.
I was building up. Baby.
That guy's a beast, man. I love that kid.
He is.
I absolutely love that kid. I love his persona. I just like everything about him. He goes out there, plays injured. He doesn't care. He's going to make sure that he's on the field and he's going to do it for his team. I love that about him. And you know what? When they interview him, he doesn't talk about himself, ever talk about himself. He talks about his team and how the team works with him on the field. He's fantastic. And I love Campbell. I love him as coach. So,
yeah, no, he's one that just truly had a historic rookie season. He was just a monster. Oh, there we go. We've got the dress picture.
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh my God.
What is he, Dorothy? You should have had him. You should have had him on like the broomstick.
Maybe I'll have to do a counter one for Fitz on the broomstick.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have a heart attack. Hey, Fish, why don't you put up the nice little piece I sent you? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Garrett. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Look, fantasy football can wait. This is great.
Who needs those 12th place pranks that people do with like all the food, all the Waffle House, and like eat all the food?
Oh yeah,
dress up like that.
Good for me.
I love it.
It's good for both of us.
It's good for both.
No, it's not good for me. I don't need to humiliate myself any more than I have to. As a Giants fan, it still wasn't as bad as having to wear a Cowboys jersey on air one time too. That was brutal as well.
I had to wear a Brady jersey.
Yeah, you had to wear a Brady jersey. I remember that.
That was despicable.
Yes.
And then the Beeve was so close. Oh man, he had to wear a dress, a wig, lipstick. You know, he had to get a perm. I remember I had all this stuff ready. I even had the high heels picked up for the Beeve. And for 30 seconds, man, 30 seconds, Jimmy Garoppolo takes the ball down the field and they kick a field goal. and beat the Chicago Bears.
Back when
I
the
was
49ers
disgusted.
were a really bad team.
It pissed me off. It really made me sick. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right, so I was going to ask about the running backs now. A lot of them, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson landing in some interesting spots there, and some of just the prospects as a whole. Like, what are your thoughts on them as being like fantasy sleepers and being like even breakout players not being drafted as high?
Yeah, this was an interesting class because we didn't have the Bijan Robinsons, the Breece Halls of the years past, where they were just locked and loaded. Like everybody knew these dudes are going to be studs. And that was kind of shown by, we only had one guy go in the second round and we had 3 in the third round. Like we didn't have a lot of guys go early in the draft at running back this year. But that being said, I like some of the guys at the top here. Jonathan Brooks, he offers a 3-down skill set. He is recovering from that ACL injury, so we'll have to see how early he gets to play and is at full speed. But long-term, I'm a big Jonathan Brooks guy. Trey Benson's one of my favorite. He was actually my favorite one that I scouted. We've been talking a lot about the Cardinals tonight, apparently, but he's with the Arizona Cardinals. And one thing that we've seen from them in the past is they're willing to give their running back a large workload. You see James Conner over the past few years. When he's healthy, he's the guy. He's getting a vast majority of the work. And we know long-term, Trey Benson's going to be the guy. He's got the size. He's got the speed. When you look at all the metrics, what he did at the combine, what he did on tape, like there's really no glaring obvious holes in his game. He's an all-around complete back. So he's one of those guys that a year or two from now, we're going to be talking about, like, how did he fall so far in the NFL draft? Because I think he's an absolute stud. I don't think he should have fallen all the way to the third round. And then you have a guy like Jalen Wright, who's really interesting. He fell to the 4th round overall, but he is such a similar player to Raheem Mostert. He's basically a Raheem Mostert clone. And so what they've done is they re-signed Raheem Mostert. They said, hey, Mostert and Achane, you guys are going to feast. You're both going to get stupid amounts of yards. And then Mostert, you're probably going to be too old here pretty soon. So, hey, we got your clone to just pop right back in and just keep doing the same thing that we're doing. So there's a lot of interesting fantasy names, even though we didn't get quite the draft capital that we had in the past.
We are talking to Dynasty Nerds head of content, Garret Price, a friend of the show. He knows his Dynasty. He knows his fantasy. He knows everything. His guys are great. We've had them all on the show. They're really fantastic guys. So, you talk about, obviously fantasy and the wide receivers are making a ton of money. They're just exploding right off the page. And obviously Brandon Ayuk wants a big contract. Justin Jefferson just got a brand new big contract. CeeDee Lamb wants a big contract. When you look at these wide receivers and how they've changed the game, and obviously the money that they're bringing in now is just ridiculous. Is there a particular wide receiver that you would sign early before they explode off the page that you can control for the next 5 years where you don't have to extend or overpay for the future? Is there a particular guy right now coming out of this year's draft that you would just say, after the first year, I'm going to give you a long-term deal. This is what I'm going to give you. So I have control of you for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think they're not even allowed to sign until after year 3.
Really? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I don't even think they're allowed to restructure their rookie. I could be wrong on that. I'll look into it, but I think they have to wait until year 3 to even be able to start having that conversation, because I think the Vikings would have done that a few years ago. I think some of these teams would have considered that a little bit earlier on, because when you look at guys, and this is one of the best wide receiver classes we've had in a long time. So, I mean, you look at just at the very top, Harrison and Neighbors, like both of these guys, I would not be surprised if we're talking about both of them as top 10 receivers, maybe even as early as this season. Like both of those guys have that type of game-breaking ability. Rome Odunze's a stud. He might not get as many targets just because how many mouths there are to feed there in Chicago now, which is crazy to say. We would have never said that a few years ago, but that is the case now. And even some of the guys that fell a little bit. You look at some players like Xavier Legette. He's a risky guy. He only had 1 big year of production, but that year was fantastic. And he's got the AJ Brown physique. He is built. He's yoked. Like, there's some interesting names in this class that'd be really fun. But for me, if they were, what's that?
You forgot one. He's now he's now with the Chiefs.
Xavier Worthy. Brian Thomas went in the first round.
Makes me want to
Ricky Pearsall. Yeah, Xavier Worthy there is, I mean, literally the fastest 40 we've ever timed. and you're going to give him to the best quarterback in the league? Bonkers.
It makes me sick to my stomach. And thank you, Buffalo, for really ruining my ear of even the thought in my mind. Hey, the Jets are loaded. Huh? We can jump ship and actually beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you look at Xavier Worthy. How the hell is anybody going to stop him if he's throwing the ball in the back of the field? And they're giving him. There's so many guys. Travis Kelce, you could block. You have all these guys that are good blocking. Tight ends. They have 2 tight ends now. They drafted another tight end that could block. I mean, it's just scary how good Kansas City could be this year. And Andy Reid, I'll say whatever you could say, whatever you want. The guy finds guys in the draft. He always finds guys in the later parts of the draft that you say, why did he draft him? And then all of a sudden, oh, that's why he drafted him. So I don't know. I'm just sick to my stomach. Thank you to Buffalo for ruining. Oh, there it is.
Really, Fish? You had to go there.
Cheer you back up.
At least the 2 of them could battle it out. Maybe they could duel and then they'll
get you, my pretty.
Maybe they could just have a duel and they'll both be dead and gone forever. That'll work.
Slap that ass.
No, I'm definitely not doing that. So, Gary, getting back to football, I know you're a Browns fan. We actually had your partner on the show for our draft panel, Dennis Bennett, who's a Bengals fan. And we've actually had a lot of AFC North guys in general. It seems to be a common thing with the fantasy and draft community. So there are question marks at offense. Obviously, the quarterback position being unknown, Nick Chubb coming back from the injury. And Amari Cooper wants a new deal, too. So what are your thoughts to the Browns and the rest of that division going into the season?
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating division. I think that's why Hard Knocks picked the NFC North to do the in-season Hard Knocks this year. And they're just going to – because you could make it a legitimate argument for any one of those teams winning the division, and you have a leg to stand on. So that's the fascinating part about the division. All of these teams play good defense overall. All of these teams have some playmakers. It's going to be fun. But speaking specifically to the Browns, similar to what I said about Caleb Williams, it all comes down to Deshaun Watson. We saw, in the playoffs, as good as and it was so fun. The Joe Flacco ride was so fun. But at the end of the day, he was meant to be a backup fill-in spot start guy. He wasn't meant to be the savior of the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson is supposed to be that guy. Now, is he? I don't know. I wish I could say definitively like, oh, yeah, he'll be fine. I really don't know. There are moments where I watch him play, especially that last half against Baltimore right before his injury. You're like, oh, my gosh, he looks fantastic. And then there's other times where he can't hit the broadside of a barn. He looks like he's way overthinking and overprocessing and just things are not going his way. So I wish I had like some astute fact, some astute statistic that I could give you right now to give confidence to Cleveland Browns. Dude, I have no clue. I have no clue. You could tell me that the Browns are a 5-win team next year, and I would say I could see that as a possibility. You could tell me that they win 13 games next year, and I could see that as a possibility. Like, it's all over the map, and a lot of it is going to come down to what's going on with Deshaun Watson, and is Nick Chubb anywhere close to his old self?
Well, it's great. You have a running back named Chubb, and you have a quarterback that likes to hang out in massage parlors. So, hey, if you need a chubby, you just go to Chubb, and you hang out with, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he can hang out with, a guy like, an owner over there with the Patriots over there, Mr. Robert Kraft. I mean, they could be buddies. They can hang out. Maybe they trade for him and they could trade, their quarterback over there. I don't know. I mean, seriously, it is crazy. But we all know what Deshaun Watson is going to do. And hopefully it doesn't come out. He's going to be hanging out at those massage parlors. Anyways, we were talking to Dynasty Nerds head of content, Garret Price. Last question from me, Garret. I mean, you look at the league right now, and this kickoff rule is so interesting. How is this going to work this year? How does this open up? I mean, for teams like Kansas City, you have Xavier Worthy who can catch the ball, and the ball has to hit the ground, or the player has to catch it before that you can run and tackle the guy. So how does this work? I mean, you're giving this guy 20 yards, 25 yards to pick up speed. How does this work? This is going to open up the field. You're going to see more touchdowns. You're going to see teams start on the 50 and the 40-yard every single time. I don't know how this works. I can imagine you're going to see a 60-point game sometime this year with the offensive style of game with these kickoff rules. I think it's crazy. If I was a defensive player, I wouldn't be happy about this. What are your thoughts to it?
It's not my favorite, honestly. I don't. It was one of those things where it felt like an unnecessary change just for change sake. So I'm not a big fan of it, but these coaches, they have to adapt and adjust. And that's why right away he was unsigned. The second this passes, all of a sudden Cordero Patterson has a new deal with the team. These kick returners, these guys with that ability are going to become much more valuable, and guys are going to rise in the draft now if they have that special teams ability, whereas before it was a little bit of an afterthought. Maybe in the 5th round we'll look at a guy like that. Well, now they bumped up a round or two simply because they have that ability. So I think you're right. I think it is going to affect scorings, the overall total points a decent amount, and it's going to be really interesting to see the different creative juices that get flowing with these special teams coordinators, because the best ones are going to figure out early on how to use this to their advantage. And I think they're going to capitalize it and maybe get a couple W's early on in the season, whereas the less experienced ones or the less creative ones might not be able to do that. They're not prepared for it. So I think those special teams coordinators are really going to come in big early on in the season.
I keep telling Speedy, I didn't want to cut you off. I said, put the hockey game on. We're missing the hockey game.
I think it's tomorrow.
Is there a hockey game on right now?
No,
Oh, it's tomorrow. All right.
Tomorrow. That's why I was confused.
All right. So I'm just asking, is the hockey game on? What the hell's going on? We're watching baseball tonight. I don't want to watch this crap. I mean, seriously. Anyways, we love you, Garret. By the way, everything that you guys are doing is fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing. I've been telling the other guys, we've had fantasy guys on our show. I want to get all the fantasy guys on the show. We all join like a fantasy football draft, and we all like 14 teams, and we put in $50, and we'll see. You guys are the fantasy gurus, and we put it together, and we have a draft against all of you guys. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be very fun. Interesting. Let's just. I told Speedy to set it up. So, and we spoke to like, what was it, 6 or 7 guys. So if we could get like 14 guys to be a part of this, and we'll see, we'll put $50 in and we'll see who comes out the winner. These fantasy guru guys, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at fantasy. I'm not going to lie. But,
hey, here's the thing that no fantasy guy wants to tell you. You can do all the analysis in the world, and it will give you a 10 to 15% advantage. At the end of the day, there's so much variance. There's so much luck that goes into it. And so all we're trying to do is take our percentage from 50-50 to 60-40, but still at the end of the day, there's so much luck, so much variance. And what I tell people often, especially in Dynasty, more so than redraft, but even redraft too, it's about 70% skill, 30% luck to make the playoffs. Once you get into the playoffs, it's 70% luck, 30% skill for who ends up winning it all, because all it takes is 1 week. All it takes is 1 week for things to go awry, and all of a sudden the best team's out of it, and some random team that decided to start, I'm going to start Tyler Higbee this week, and he got me 3 touchdowns, and he ends up going on and winning the ship. So as much time, effort, and energy we put into this, it's for a 10% advantage, 15% advantage, and there's still so much luck involved.
Yeah, well, I guess I have the luck when it comes to fantasy. I guess I'm doing.
There you go.
Good. I'm a lucky guy.
There you go.
I say. I'm not lucky with everything else. Speedy, are you lucky?
Not lucky.
Have you been lucky with any of the women that you've been
Not-
hanging with? I'm serious. Yeah, have you been lucky?
No, he's like a frat boy.
Yes, in this case, you do. Very good, Scoop.
Oh man, what?
Oh God, what is this now?
Men in black rules.
I wish.
That's
Amazing.
great.
Oh, that's what that is? Oh my God. Ay.
See that, Garret?
Amazing.
Aaron, I apologize for all the juvenile antics that these two have caused.
Oh man, by the way, that's Aaron Fishman, our executive producer. He's fantastic with the graphics. It's very funny.
Unfortunately.
Love it.
And that's Scoops with our soundboard. But thank you, Garret. You're fantastic. We'll be in touch. I definitely want to get you back on. Some of you guys on. Maybe we'll get all you guys on at the same time and have a little bit of an argument of this season and when it comes to fantasy and stuff that could happen in the football season. But thank you, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Garret Price, ladies and gentlemen. We've been waiting to get him on. He is fantastic, as always. Wow. I'm a little sweaty, Speedy. Are you sweaty?
Not really.
I mean, you'd be melting then. You're like.
Oh yeah, I would be the witch. Yes.
Yeah. Could you give us a good witch? Could you do that for us?
No, I couldn't.
Come on, give us
I'm
a good
not
witch.
good with high pitch.
Come on.
I'll
get you, my pretty. Get you, my pretty.
Actually, that was better than I thought.
That
was good. That was actually good, Scoops.
That sounds like a duck.
Well, no, but the laugh, the evil laugh, was fitting for that moment.
Sounds like you're coughing on something.
Enjoy.
Well, we got Derek and Wes waiting. Why don't we go to a quick break? We'll have our sports minute first, and then we're going to have Let's Parlay. Finally, since it's been a long, long time, we'll have Derek and Wes at the same time. Yes, Let's Parlay. But first, our sports minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
The time is 9:35, and I am Tommy Scoops, bringing you guys the Loudmouth Sports Minute. And getting over into the NBA, the Warriors announced that they have offered guard Klay Thompson a contract. The current contract offer for the Golden State Warriors is a 2-year deal for an undisclosed amount of money, as Klay Thompson did say that he hopes for at least a 3-year deal. Lastly, over in the MLB, the Royals are placing right-handed pitcher Dan Altavilla on injured list. Altavilla, who suffered a right oblique strain, will be reevaluated in 15 days. Lastly, for Scoops' scores, St. Louis currently has a 6-4 lead over in the MLB over the San Francisco Giants over in the top of the 6th inning. That is currently right now all the time I have for you guys. Going to kick it back to the boys for Let's Parlay on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
I don't drink a lot of milk. Willie Boppers, Speedy. Willie Boppers. Clap that in.
Do you bend the meat?
Good for me, good for you. You said smothers. No, I would rush on the hot. 631-672-3108. That's Speedy and me. Our soundboard. Yeah.
You want to go burn a bush in a crab?
You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Darryl Marks. My co-host, Speedy, as everybody knows, it's Speedy Petey. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Finally, we have these two guys on, Derek is hanging out, doing his thing, enjoying his freedom. And you have Wes, he's just making money. He's just piling in the money guy. Anyways, let's call it. Let's do it. Let's parlay.
It's time for Let's Parlay.
All right, we have Worldwide West and Mr. Derek Mountaineer Mountain. We have him back, ladies and gentlemen. How are you boys?
Doing good. Good to see you, Derek.
Yeah, you too, Wes.
It's interesting, Speedy. And it's so funny. Derek has the same voice as his brother Brian. They're like identical. I couldn't even tell. And sometimes when I'm on the phone, I'm like, and they have the same laugh too. Same identical laugh. It's pretty funny. So you don't know who's which. And I say that to him all the time when I talk to him on the phone. So I'm kind of lost with words. Maybe we should have Brian on here. I don't think he'd be good at this. Anyways. All right. You guys know the rules. You guys have 4 picks. Your final one, your parlay pick. We'll go Derek and then Wes. You guys ready? All right. Here we go. Derek, your first pick.
All right, I will go to the Stanley Cup tomorrow. Game 6 in Edmonton. I'm going to take Stuart Skinner's over in saves. I got another pick in this game, but I'm going to start off with Skinner over 25.5 saves. He's cleared this easily in the last 2 games with 32 and 29. He's just looked much more comfortable in the net since game 3. in that 4-3 loss. I think ever since then he's looked a lot more confident. He looked like he was really pressing those first 2 games, especially saw this in the Dallas series. I think Skinner, when they were trailing 2-1 in that series, was ridiculed and kind of pointed as the reason that Edmonton's going to fall short again. It always seems to be goaltending in the back end for them the past couple years. And Skinner's really put it together. He has not been an issue for them this series and why they're trailing. And Edmonton has all the momentum, but I just expect Florida to play with their hair on fire tomorrow. Going back to the last game, I mean, Florida was all over them until that shorthanded goal really just swung momentum. But Florida's possessed the puck really well. They're really strong up front. I expect them to continue to get plenty of chances in front of the net. So I think this is a nice number, 25.5 saves for Skinner. I like his over.
All right, Wes, give us your first pick.
So, we at some point I got to get Petey my CFL play for Thursday night quicker in the day because we're halfway through the third quarter of the Canadian game right now, and at one point it was 30. It was 30-1 at the half, and it was in favor of my play, which was Montreal -6.5. So it is of no value to anybody watching or listening right now. But as you guys know, I'm all CFL at this point. Probably until November. So. Can't give that play anymore, so I apologize to the listeners. But I'll stay with the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to take Edmonton, and I'm going to take the money line. And the reason I like them is they broke Bob. I mean that's you guys have heard me say it in these playoff series in the NHL. When you figure out the goalie or you break him, that's the end of it. And Edmonton has done that. And I felt like going into this NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals, the whole world is thirsty to crown this new superstar. And in the NBA, it would have been Luka, but the NHL desperately needs McDavid to hoist that cup. So whether or not they take it in Game 7, I'm going to take Edmonton money line. I think that they found a way to get meaningful shots on goal in the last couple games. And if you look at these last few games, what Edmonton has done, these are some of the most goals that Bobrovsky has allowed in the entire playoffs. First, you go back to the last Florida win, and that was the top amount of goals allowed by Bobrovsky, which was Edmonton hung 3 on him. Then they come back and pop 8 home, and then they scored 4 on Bobrovsky and got the empty netter. But the way they played in the final couple minutes with the empty net to get that additional goal, Edmonton really demonstrated the back-checking ability and the defensive ability. I like Derek's play with Skinner and the saves. The only question is, will Edmonton allow that many shots in this elimination game scenario? So you're probably looking at 28 shots, but I'm going to take Edmonton money line. I love this to go to 7 games. And if they do, and this series is now slipping away from Florida, I mean, what a great story it will be for Connor Mack.
All right, Derek, give us your second pick.
I'm actually going to be on the other side of this one. I'm taking Florida. I like this because of the value in itself. I mean, you can get them at like plus 105, plus 102. They're a slight underdog in Edmonton tomorrow, rightfully so. I think Edmonton has a huge psychological edge going into tomorrow. I think you saw it when Connor Brown put up that shorthanded goal in Game 5. It just took a lot of air out of the sails in Florida, and you could see them press for the next 30, 40 minutes of that game. And they never really got it going until the third period when they cut the lead to 4-3. But having said that, and look, the way McDavid is playing, he looks healthy now versus the Dallas series where he was more of a facilitator and he wasn't really aggressive on net. He looks fully healthy now, 4 points the last game. So this is a little bit of a scary bet, but I do think this is going to be treated like a little bit of an elimination game for Florida. Just They don't want to be on that side of history, taking this to 7, being the second team in NHL playoff history to collapse a 3-0 series lead, to be the first team in Stanley Cup history to do that. I think the stat in the broadcast last game said that Edmonton's the first team to extend this into 6 games after trailing 3-0. So Florida's going to have their hair on fire tomorrow night. I'm very confident in that. They do not want the series to go back to Florida in front of their home crowds. In a weird way, I think, they're down 2-0, 3-0, 4-1 last game. It's tough to play in front of your home crowd in a clinching game like that to win a title in certain aspects, especially in hockey. So I think playing on the road tonight or tomorrow night could actually play as an advantage for Florida if they can get out to an early lead. If they could get the first goal, that'll be huge for them. I like them as a short underdog. I think Wes is completely valid in his concerns for Bobrovsky and the way he looked the first 16 games in the postseason versus this Stanley Cup are 2 totally different goalies. But look, he's been there before. 2-time Vezina winner. So I'm just going to go with the pedigree. I think they're a deeper team. I think they're a better team. I think it's tough to beat them 3 times in a row. Give me the short underdog tomorrow.
The 3-0 deficit hasn't been done since the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow. There you go. Wow.
Well, they weren't down 3-0.
Yeah, they were. They're the only team in Stanley
No,
Cup.
I'm talking about the Florida Panthers weren't up 3-0.
Yeah, they were. Yes, they were.
They've been up with Edmonton 3-0?
They were, and now it's 3-2.
Oh, I'm surprised.
It's such an odd series because Edmonton had no business being down 3-0. Florida is one of the most penalized teams in this playoffs. They were number 1 in penalties, and they were about 200, possibly 300 penalty minutes ahead of the next team in line. Like they were over 1,100 penalty minutes for the season. And it's wild to think that they're playing against a team that is deadly on the power play and somehow went up 3-0.
It's crazy. It really is. I thought it was 3-1. I didn't even think it was.
No, but Wes is right. Like Edmonton outplayed them badly in game 1. They shouldn't have lost that game.
Yeah, that, for sure.
Yeah.
Bob saved him in the first 3 games.
Well, they're saying Bob is, like you said, they figured Bob out. We'll see what happens. But I still think Florida's going to win this series. I can't see them choking like this. And this would be just a miraculous choke.
If Florida does lose this series, I think it's pretty explainable that the 2 best players in the NHL, and make no mistake about it, Draisaitl is the 2nd best player in the NHL.
No
because
question.
He plays 2 ways. There's some people would argue that McKinnon is him, but Draisaitl is a really good 2-way player that you can put on the PK. So you got the 2 best players in the league on one roster. I don't know. It just wouldn't be. It would be weird that they went down 3-1, but it wouldn't be weird that they won it, and it wouldn't even be crazy that they came back to win it. Florida is a roster where the sum is greater than the parts.
All right, Wes, give us your number 2.
All right, I'm going to Canada. I am going to take Winnipeg at home. I'm laying 2 points. This is the most bizarre start to a CFL season, seeing Winnipeg down 0-2. Winnipeg in Canada is similar to the Patriots in the United States. They have the roster, they have the coach, they have the quarterback. They have all the pieces, and somehow they're up to an 0-2 start. I think wide receiver Kenny Lawler being injured is really it matters to them in their passing game at this point. They're trying to figure out the offense, but they're going against BC. Statistically, at home you don't beat Winnipeg, although this will be their 2nd game at home this year, and they lost the first one. But I just don't see this team going 0-3. BC lost a lot of pieces that matter. On a receiver, they lost their starting running back, who's one of the best in the league, in Butler. I'm going to lay 2 points on Winnipeg at home. They need this. It's wild to say that they need this on game 3 of the CFL season, but if they go 0-3 and they give one up to BC, that is going to be a deadly thing this early in the season. Looking at standings, so I think Winnipeg is yet to see a good game this season out of their key defensive players, Jeff Coat and Big Hill and Jefferson. So laying 2.5, taking Winnipeg. Go Canada.
All right, Derek, give us your third pick.
I am going to go to baseball tomorrow afternoon, or no, early tomorrow night. I apologize. I'm going to go with the over in the first 5 innings of Phillies Diamondbacks, over 5.5 runs. We have a plus matchup on both sides of the plate for each offense tomorrow in Philly and for Arizona. We have Taijuan Walker on the mound for Philly, who is a high contact pitcher. His last 2 starts have been a little bit better, but he's hovering around a 5.3 ERA. And against this Diamondbacks lineup, where Corbin Carroll is going to be in the lineup against a righty, and he is hitting much, much better than he was the first 2 months of the season. Ketel Marte is one of the best hitters in baseball. He's incredibly underrated. The dude is unbelievable. And this is a team that can run. I mean, they're a high contact team. They get on base. They're 6th in on base percentage in the league, 8th in OPS. They run the bases just as well as anybody. And JT Realmuto is out for the Phillies. It's going to be probably Garrett Stubbs behind the plate tomorrow. There's a plus matchup for this Arizona Diamondbacks lineup. And on the other side, you have Jordan Montgomery on the mound for Arizona, who's been a pretty brutal free agent signing for Arizona. He's been really disappointing. Notably, him and Snell were the 2 Boris clients that kind of held out all of spring training to get as many suitors, drive up their price tag as much as possible, and then it hasn't worked out for Montgomery in Arizona. He's looked like a shell of his former self and what he did in Texas last year. And the Phillies lineup, I mean, they've gotten a lot stronger. They're getting some reinforcements back with Trey Turner back in the lineup now. He's coming off the IL, and Alec Boehm's starting to hit. He had a tough month in June up until the last series against San Diego. He started to hit a lot better. Kyle Schwarber in June, we know what that's about. He's had 3 home runs this week, I think 6 or 7 home runs in the month. So I think there's a really good matchup, both sides of the plate for each offense, over 5.5 runs in the first 5.
All right, Mr. West, give us your third.
Well, I'm staying in Canada, and what's cool about the CFL is they do these 2 in a rows. So I'm looking at Saskatchewan and Hamilton. They played each other last week. I was on Hamilton. I'm going to stay on Hamilton this week. Hamilton was up 20-7 at the half, and Sask for the second week in a row on the road comes back in a late 3rd, 4th quarter heroics. What I don't like about what Sask is doing is they're not starting strong. AJ Ouellette is 11 carries for like 32 yards. AJ Ouellette, I don't know if it's appropriate to say this or not, but he very much reminds me of a white Jerome Bettis. He's a banger. He's a bus. And he really worked out well for the way that Toronto played the game. He does not fit into the Saskatchewan offense very well. Bain had 3 touchdowns in week 1, 2 of them were late in the game. He's injured, banged up, whether or not he plays. Bo Levi Mitchell played really good football for the first 2 weeks of the season. It took a really weird freak interception by Sask in order to win the game last week. So now they're going back to Mosaic. And what's odd is Mosaic is one of the best stadiums in the entire CFL. It's newer, it's louder, it's built to be loud, it holds a lot of fans. But statistically, over the last 5 years, it's not a true advantage for Sask. They don't have a dominating winning record at home. So I'm going to take the points. And the other odd thing with the CFL with these 2 in a rows, where the teams play each other this week and then play each other next week. So Sask won by 3 last week, late heroics to win it. You go to this week's game, and now Sask is a 2.5 point favorite. Last week, Sask was a dog, and it's the same 2 teams playing. So I'm going to take advantage of the odds makers putting weird lines, and I'm going to take the 2.5. I think that Hamilton will win the game outright, but on the road, I'm going to take the points. Bo Levi Mitchell, I think Butler's going to be a little bit too much. And we still have not seen the best performance out of White, who's one of the best receivers in the CFL. So Hamilton plus 2.5 on the road.
All right. Final parlay, Mr. Derek.
I feel like it's been a while since I've given a golf pick out on this podcast, so I got to do it. Travelers Championship the week after the U.S. Open. I'm going to go with Denny McCarthy to finish in the top 20. It is at plus 115. I'm getting at FanDuel and DraftKings. This is a weird one. McCarthy's not a super well-known guy, but I've had my eye on him for the past 2 or 3 years. I mean, he's a fantastic putter. He's fantastic around the greens. Anytime that there's a course like TPC River Highlands where they're playing in Connecticut, it's one of the shortest courses on the PGA. It's 6,900 yards. You don't need the long ball to compete at this. He was in the top 10 last year. He was an extremely high floor because of how well he putts. He's second on the PGA Tour in shots gained putting this year. He's made 9 of 10 cuts that he's played in. He's finished in the top 10 twice. So look, this is a tournament. He's tied into 18th going into tomorrow morning. He has an early tee time where the greens are going to be a little bit firmer than what they will be for the afternoon tee times, where it's going to be really hot and it's going to be a lot softer greens. So I think he has a chance to kind of jump out ahead of this top 20 finishing position that we're going to get in here at plus 115. I feel is really, really good value. And this is a tournament, 71 golfers. Everyone makes the cut. So we don't have to worry about if he has a bad round tomorrow, but I don't expect him to. But he has such a high floor. I really like McCarthy to finish in the top 20. So I'm going to take that at plus 115 for this weekend.
It's funny. Last week, Wes was on and Carl was in our comments section, and he would say, "Oh, we rather have the golf bets for the Masters." And I commented, "Like that's what Derek is for." 1 week.
All right, parlay. Let's hear it, Wes. What do you got?
I'm staying in Canada, and I'm looking at Toronto, Edmonton, because that's the only game left. There's only 4 games a week, and Edmonton is doing what they do best. Over the last 2 seasons, if you bet against Edmonton, you win over 90% of the time. They elk. They look good, and then they elk. They pissed me off real good last week because they scored a touchdown that was completely meaningless to ruin the point spread for Montreal. Montreal cared about the win, and they got it, and right at this point, they're the standard. But looking at Edmonton going into Toronto on the same type of philosophy. If you look at what Toronto has done at home, they're one of the best home teams in the CFL. They got Dukes because our buddy Chad Kelly decided to do something egregious and get a 9-game suspension. But Dukes is mobile. He is running around with the ball. He's still productive in the passing game, but that Toronto defense hasn't changed. I mean, it is still dominant and great. And the only difference with the Toronto defense to start the season this year, they've only played 1 game, but their offense isn't dictating the tempo, which makes the defense more dangerous. Typically, you get up 10-0 and the defense gets even better because they can predict what the opposing offense is going to do. But I am going to lay 4 points, and I'm going to take Toronto at home. I'm counting on Toronto to be great at home, like always, and Edmonton to elk, like they always do. And, Petey, the Wichita State Shocker with the thumb.
Right, that's show the shocker. Show the shocker. There he goes.
And my wife is home. She's a Shocker alum. She just walked into the room and kind of made a face. But
show the shocker.
Honey, the thumb is what makes it okay. That's how it works, Emily.
I taught you that.
You hear her? She said she taught me that. But when you
has Derek seen that one yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was there at the beginning of the shocker. Oh yeah.
Derek, the deal is when you diddle the thumb like this, that's when he gets real excited.
He does. He gets really. I mean, if he actually knew what 2 in the pink and 1 in the stink was, I mean, that would.
No, that will never happen. But Wes, I will also say it is back-to-back weeks. You've brought back 2 of your favorite sayings, and Edmonton's going to elk, and then Oklahoma last week.
One more time, Speedy.
You're on a nice little roll.
Show him what you got, Speedy. Show us that little shocker right there.
There's the shocker.
Run that thumb.
Shock them.
And you're back to this now. At least it was better than the Wizard of Oz.
No, you got to put that up. Put that up. It's not, as they got to see that. They got to see that. Man.
I'm telling you, when basketball starts, I'm flying all you guys out to Wichita, and we're going to a game, and we will throw up the sign and live our best lives.
This is good for you guys. Yeah.
Wes, it's funny.
Not.
Wes, it's actually pretty funny. One of my brothers, they used to have this basketball hoop in their room, like an office basketball hoop, and they actually made a tournament bracket based on just like if they made the shot or missed the shot, something like that, and like just based on the randomness of it, like Wichita State the year they got to the Final Four as the 9th seed, like it was in there for him.
The ruby slippers. I didn't even notice that the ruby slippers.
I'm telling you, it is one of the best. It is one of the best game day atmospheres in college basketball that nobody talks about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Again, they just ever since they switched conferences, like they've been forgotten about. It's a shame.
Well, they don't have football. They have a really cool memorial. Marshall, had the movie about the football team and the plane crash, but Wichita State, that was a real thing too, and their program never came back.
Wow, that's funny, man. You guys are great. Hopefully we get you guys back on again next week. We'll definitely keep tallies on where you guys are at. We really appreciate the time. As always, Wes, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Derek,
always be cashing.
I'll be talking to you soon, my friend. Happy that you're back.
Thanks, guys.
Mountaineer Mountain and Worldwide West. And the Wicked Witch himself, Speeder, the Peter of the Weeder. You like that?
It's good rhyming.
Oh, you like that?
Not worth it.
No, it was good rhyming. I'll give him that one. I'll get him that one.
Oh, look at that. It's good rhyming. Could I rhyme for you?
You can rhyme as much as you want.
LeBron James, or LeBron James's agent, Rich Paul, says that the teams drafting Bronny James doesn't mean they're linked to LeBron. Paul added that he wants Bronny to have a full NBA contract and not a two-way deal no matter where he goes. Bronny has only worked out with the Lakers and the Suns, and that is because Paul's telling him to turn down workouts with the other teams. The Mavericks, the Timberwolves, the Raptors were also interested in Bronny, but he declined to work out with those teams. Paul George says he could see Bronny being a Drew Holiday. Reports say it would be a long shot for the Lakers to take Bronny at 17 and the Suns to take him at 22. So here's what I'm going to say. And by the way, I've been dealing with a lot of allergies today. It's like at the tail end of the pollen, and I have been dying. It's not even sneezing. It's like it feels like I'm getting choked up. It's horrible. It's horrible here in Long Island. I will say that with the pollen. Let's bring Fish in because I definitely want to get his opinion to it. But here's the thing. The problem right now with Bronny James isn't the fact is he talented enough to play in the NBA. Okay. We all know that he is going to the NBA because of who his father is and his last name. We all know that. His father is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. His father says that his son is one of the most athletic players to be drafted out of this year's coming draft and one of the best athletic players drafted from all time when it comes to the combine. Here's the problem. Bronny James is not a first-round draft pick. He hasn't developed yet. He should stay in college and play another year of college eligibility. He's not because he wants to make the money now, and he wants to play with his father. He doesn't know how long his father has left in the NBA. He does want to sign a 3-year deal. That's what we've heard with LeBron, worth about $60 a year. But is he going to get that? If it's not the Lakers, is anybody going to give him that money? LeBron James is in seriously great shape. But is LeBron James going to play those 3 years if he signs that $60 million a year contract if he goes to the Hawks or if he goes to the Timberwolves or the Mavericks? I do believe signing JJ Redick tells me that LeBron James is staying with the Lakers. Now, if the Lakers don't draft Bronny James at 17, is he going to fall in the second round? And is the Lakers going to be able to move up to get him in the second round? I don't think so. I do believe Bronny James is going to be drafted in the first round. I'll probably be a late first round draft pick. If I were the Lakers, I would trade out of that pick at 17 and try to get something back for it, fall to the mid-20s, and you'll still get Bronny at 25, 26, and you'll get the value of a second-round draft pick. To me, Bronny James has the athletic ability to be a good player. I don't agree with Paul George. Does he understand how good of a player Drew Holiday is? Drew Holiday is one of the best two-way players we've seen in the last 10 years. I don't know if Drew Holiday has I don't know if Bronny James has that ability to be that two-way player in the NBA. Now, he has the athletic ability. He has the performance of his father and his father helping him develop if he goes to play with his father. JJ Redick is not a guy that's going to develop a player. Okay. I'm just saying JJ Redick never really developed his game as an NBA player. He was a 3-point shooter. He wasn't a good inside player. He was a one-dimensional player. He wasn't even a good defensive player, JJ Redick. So I don't know how you're going to bring in a rookie coach to develop a young player of this magnitude. Now, if LeBron is there, he'll help develop his son. He's been developing his son since he was a little kid. I understand why he wants to play with him. Is he that player that the Lakers could find in the later rounds that could turn and transition the Lakers into to have a superstar young player that they can build around after LeBron retires? I don't know. I think obviously the Lakers are going to be the team that's going to get him. I don't understand the Suns thing. No. How does that work? I understand. Obviously, KD is there. I understand that Bradley Beal is there and Booker is there. But is KD going to stay there? And if he does go over there, when is he going to get time on the court? Is he even going to touch the ball? He's never going to develop over there with the Suns. So it doesn't make sense on why he would go to the Phoenix Suns. The only reason why it makes sense to go to the Lakers are going to give him a shot. The Lakers are going to give him a chance to play because LeBron is going to be coaching that team. So, and he wants to coach his son. He wants to be involved with his son's growth as an NBA player. So I do agree with Rich Paul. But I don't know if that's going to keep teams like the Mavericks, the Timberwolves, and the Raptors from not drafting him. If the Timberwolves and the Mavericks and the Raptors are drafting in front of him, who's to say they say, you know what, screw the Lakers, screw the Suns, I'll draft him, and I'll tell LeBron to kiss my rear end. So I understand why the Mavericks, because Kyrie Irving and LeBron are good friends. Yeah. I understand that. The Timberwolves, I know Anthony Edwards is a guy that could probably help him develop as a player because he's a youngster that's really developing at his top rate. And the Raptors make no sense. I can't see the Raptors, drafting him. I could understand why they're interested in him because they want LeBron James, but LeBron's not going to Canada. So I don't believe that at all. So I understand why Rich Paul is saying this. I understand what the understanding and the conversation is with this. It's never going to happen. He's going to be a Laker. No matter what happens, he's going to be a Laker.
Yeah, no matter where he ends up getting drafted.
He's going to the Lakers.
Too. This report seems like Rich Paul is going to treat Bronny like the stubbornness of LeBron. Like, obviously, Rich Paul is not like LeBron did it himself a lot of the time. I know Rich Paul was his agent, but Bronny didn't. I don't know if he's going to have that same kind of leverage, the same way to do it himself, but Rich Paul's treating it that same kind of way. The Suns would be dumb to draft him in the first round because this is the only first round pick they have until 2030. They have to make sure they can get a player that can make an impact probably off the bench or something like that. A guy with size. Like, if the Suns
he's undersized too.
I know.
His position.
Right. The Suns maybe last-ditch effort to try to get something. I don't think it's going to work, but like they're going to have to get some role players that are going to make an impact. Like even for the Timberwolves and the Mavericks, they have enough depth. They have enough role players that they don't need to just reach on somebody like that in the first round. Toronto makes no sense. They're rebuilding. Yeah. So this confirms, I think, the only point is go to the Lakers. Now, I don't know if necessarily that Rich Paul's going to stop the Lakers and Rob Pelinka, how stubborn he is of giving him not a 10-day contract or a 2-way contract. Or something like that.
First of all, he's going to be drafted in the first round. I don't know why anybody thinks he's falling to the second round. I understand that nobody thinks he's a first-round talent. It's not about first-round talent.
Yeah, the Lakers would be the only team that would do it.
Because of a name.
Right.
Okay? That's all it is. It's a name. And if you think that you can pry LeBron James from the Lakers, you're going to be the team that's going to – I could see the Atlanta Hawks doing this. I could absolutely see the Atlanta Hawks come out of nowhere and say, you know what? We're drafting Bronny James. Where's Atlanta drafting? 10, 11?
Somewhere in the middle, too.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah. They were a play-in team. Probably somewhere in the middle.
They're not one.
Oh, yeah, they were. Actually, they were.
They're one?
That's right. They were.
They're not taking him one, but
He's not going one. He's not going one.
But that's right. I forgot about the weird NBA draft lottery that was this year, where they got the first pick and the Bulls were like third or something when they were playing.
So if they're one, they're not getting him. But I could see the Atlanta Hawks doing something like that. I really could, because they're just trying to draw LeBron and probably draw LeBron away from the Lakers. But I disagree. I don't believe what Rich Paul is saying. I do not agree with it in a heartbeat. Rich Paul is just trying to make sure that he goes where they want him to go. It's not going to happen. Teams are not stupid.
No.
And I think if they want Bronny James, they're going to do whatever they can. But the problem is Bronny going to play for them? That's the thing. With the NBA, I just don't know. These players run the league. It's really run by the players because of LeBron James. And I could see some team just coming out of nowhere and drafting him and him saying to the team, I am not playing for you. So trade me to my father, or I'm just going to sit out and I'm going to go play college ball again. Because he could be drafted and say, you know what?
Yeah. And which is what he should do.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to go play college ball again this year. I could see him doing that if he doesn't go where he wants to go. And I think
again, he should. I just don't know if it'll happen with all the marketing.
No, he's not.
Stuff.
It's all about money. He just bought a new house. He got a new car from his father and his mother. I mean, this guy wants to make money. And he knows that he's going to get the endorsements. You know, his father's going to sign him under a shoe deal. You know this because of who his father is. So his father's going to make sure that he's very well off, and he's going to get all these contracts and these sponsorships and these advertisements, no matter if he plays or he doesn't, because of who his father is. So that's the only reason why it's going to happen. So,
you know, one of the things that I was reading about. You don't hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Yep.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, my fault. One of the things that I was listening to right before we got on was Ryan Russillo podcast talking about the NBA draft, and he had this guy on who was saying that this year there's no tier 1 or tier 2 players that he would draft like that. The number 1 player this year, I forget his name. I think the French guy. He wouldn't even be top 5 in normal years, and there's no depth. So that gives more credence to Bronny going in the first round because of how weak the draft is this year. Now, the Knicks have 2 late first-round picks that I don't think they'd have a problem trading into getting rid of one of them for a pick next year because the draft's going to be a lot better, or selling the pick for whatever. You know, teams used to buy late first-round picks.
They have 4 first-round draft picks next year, 4 of them. I mean, they have Milwaukee's first-round draft pick.
And the draft's going to be really good next year.
And in Milwaukee, if Milwaukee's not a top 4, if they're not in the top 4, the Knicks get their pick. So anything from 5 on, they're going to get Milwaukee's pick. And Milwaukee is not going to be good this year. I don't think so. Dame Lillard's gone. Chris Middleton can't stay healthy. Giannis might not even want to be there anymore. I mean, they could actually fall in that 5 or 6 area, and the Knicks could snag their pick. They can have their pick next year. So a lot of interesting thoughts to the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to go with that pick. I do. I think the Knicks will sit on those 2 picks. I could see them trading up in the first round if there's a particular player they like at 16 where they can move up. And the Knicks have, I think, 4 second-round draft picks next year. So the Knicks can honestly, they have 4 next year, and they could actually move up with the 4 or 5 second-round picks next year to get back into the first round. They can actually draft a top 5, top 5 team for their bench next year in the first round. So I think the Knicks are set up very well, and I think the Knicks are going to trade some of those picks in the offseason because I think they're going to be set up pretty well to do that. And I agree with you. I think Bronny makes a lot of sense in this year's draft class because there's no predominant number 1 guy or even number 2 guy. I don't know where this NBA draft is going to go. Just like the NHL, it's a very weak NHL draft. But as much as they say it's weak fish, that doesn't mean it's going to be weak. You could see like 3 of these guys becoming superstars just because the NBA suggests to think that this isn't a great draft. That doesn't mean that it isn't. So I remember the year Kawhi Leonard got drafted. And they said, it's not a good draft and all this other stuff. And how many guys were drafted in that draft?
Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler.
Because remember, Kyrie Irving came out of that draft. He wasn't 100% healthy. I know. So he came back with that foot injury, and everybody was like, he didn't even have a career at Duke.
And still won the title that year.
And Jimmy Butler was a 29th pick, 30th pick by the Bulls. Right. Nobody thought that Jimmy Butler was going to be as good as he is. So Kawhi Leonard, I mean, did anybody think Kawhi was going to be Kawhi?
Not this good, no.
So it wasn't a good draft. So everybody was like, it's not a good draft. And look how many good players came out of that draft class. So there's no guarantees.
I know he's LeBron's son, but you watch the highlights, you look at his shooting guard profile, undersized a little bit. Doesn't he remind you more of Dwayne Wade, the way that he plays? It's kind of interesting the way he plays. He's really that kind of aggressive, defensive, playing above the rim, driving to the lane type of guy. He's going to work on his, he's going to get better at passing, genetically. But this is a guy that's what you're hoping for if you're taking him. That he'll
he's a good
develop
shooter
that.
too.
And he can shoot. So, I think that's really what you're looking for, and that might take some time to develop. We forget Wade, I think, played 2 or 3 years in college. Didn't come out till he was at 21 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, he can always get a little taller, and he can develop that game a little bit. I wouldn't put it past him to be a very good player, just like you're saying, one of these late first-round guys. I mean, the Spurs made a dynasty off of, Ginobili and Parker, and, years ago, with these later picks, obviously Kawhi Leonard as well. So it's one of those things that this guy absolutely can be great. It's probably not going to be the first 2 years that he's in the NBA, though, which are the years that he overlaps with his dad.
Right. Boxer Ryan Garcia announces his retirement on his Twitter page at the age of 25. ESPN's Mike Coppinger reports that Garcia was taking a banned substance before the Devin Haney fight. The drug test came Garcia's win April 20th versus Devin Haney, but Garcia wasn't eligible for the junior welterweight title for being 3 pounds overweight for the weight class, which was, I think, just ridiculous. Garcia had previously tweeted saying that I may retire. I'm done with this. With this game, and there is so much corruption. I'm over it. USA Today's Josh Peters reports that Garcia's attorney are saying he was a victim of supplement contamination in a failed drug test. Garcia finishing his career at 25-1 recorded and 20 knockouts. Let me tell you guys something. He's not retiring. This man is not retiring. As a matter of fact, after Tank Davis won his fight this past weekend, he was up there saying he was wearing a shirt. I'm the biggest Tank Davis fan. And he was out there. You heard him talking to Tank Davis saying, let's run it back. Let's run it back. And Tank Davis says, absolutely. Absolutely. Devin, and I'm just going to say this. Devin Haney is a little crybaby. Okay. I'm just speaking the truth. Stop hanging out with P. Diddy. Okay, that's what you're doing. I mean, whatever you're doing, going out to an island naked or whatever the hell you're doing with P. Diddy. Stop it. Your father actually telling you you're training, and during your training, you're hanging out with P. Diddy. I don't care what you're doing. Okay, honest to God, you got your butt whipped. The only reason, if he was taking supplements and he was caught with it, and maybe he was taking a steroid, but it wasn't because he was trying to get stronger. He was trying to drop weight. He was trying to make weight so he can fight Devin Haney. Okay, that's the facts. Okay, the fact is Devin Haney should have went out there and put on a good fight. He got his butt whipped. All right, that's the facts. Now, as far as Garcia is concerned, stop being a crybaby, buddy. You are a crybaby. When you want to get suspended, you're getting suspended. You made millions and millions of dollars. You're making a ton of money, and you're not walking away from the sport at the age of 25. You're not going to do that. You're at the top of your game. There's no way. Now, this guy has got mental issues. This guy has got. I think he's bipolar. I think he's got a ton of issues that he needs to work out in the next year before he decides to step back in the ring. But to me, there's no way this man is running away from boxing. There is no way. He's one of the best fighters in his division. He's one of the most funniest and one of the great salesmen when it comes to boxing. And he knows how to go out there and sell a fight. And that's what you want to see. Boxing is all about selling a fight. Just like mixed martial arts. You say whatever you want about Conor McGregor. When Conor McGregor's over there and he's ready to fight, he's selling a fight. Now, him backing out of this last fight just shows you how big of a bitch he is. But that's just me. All right. The fact is, Garcia is one of the best fighters in his weight class. He's one of the best power fighters in his weight class. And the fact is Devin Haney wants to come back and he wants to fight him. Devin Haney wants to take that. And if boxing takes away that loss to Devin Haney and still says that he's undefeated, that's shame on boxing for doing that. He got his butt whipped, okay? And that's just the way it is. I don't want to hear this crowd. Oh, this guy and that guy. Everybody finds a way to cheat in some kind of way. Look at Canelo Alvarez. He cheated. He got away with it. Why did he get away with it? Because boxing wants to sell his product. It's all about his Mexican style of fighting that everybody wants to see. And everybody wants to see this guy because he puts fannies in the seats. Ryan Garcia does the same thing. That's what he does. You want to say whatever you want. You want to say he's nuts. You want to say he's crazy. He is. He's nuts. He's crazy. And I love that about Ryan Garcia. I love that he's crazy. I love that he puts and he markets himself out there to be crazy. But when he goes out there, he puts on a show. Boxing is all about showmanship. You're a prize fighter. Mike Tyson, say whatever you want. When he walked out there, you knew he was going to kill you. Okay, he was scared as hell. If you go look at Mike Tyson and he's done his interviews, he'd tell you that he was deathly afraid every time he walked out there. But when he stepped in a ring, he knew that everybody that looked at him, he would give him a stare down, and he would automatically know that he was going to win the fight because he knew he got into their heads. Ryan Garcia doesn't do that. What Ryan Garcia does is he speaks a big game, and it doesn't matter who his promoter is, who his trainer is, because he's gone from one trainer to the other. And to me, Ryan Garcia is the only guy at the age of 25 years old who was he's 25-1. And the only fight that he lost was against Tank Davis, who, by the way, is the best fighter in the world. Okay. He is the best fighter in the world. You can put him against anybody. If anybody, I think there's nobody that can beat this guy in a boxing match. And I love Stevenson. I think Stevenson's a great fighter. He wants to fight Tank Davis. Good luck. He's a good power fighter. I don't think he beats Tank. I think Tank's proven himself. He beat a good Martin. Martin is a good fighter. And he completely dominated that fight on Saturday. So I'm just speaking the truth. Just like I think David Benitez. David Benitez is the best fighter in that 168, 170 division. And that's why Canelo doesn't want to fight him because he's afraid of him. The only way Canelo beats him is if he does do steroids. Okay. Ryan Garcia would have beaten Devin Haney with or without steroids. Now, I don't know if he was taking steroids with or without them. I think Devin Haney's mind was not on the fight. He was too busy hanging out with P. Diddy. Okay. And whatever they were doing in their private time, Speedy, you probably know better than
No,
us.
I don't. I would never get involved with P. Diddy. Not after what he was doing.
I think it'd be cool that you hung out with P. Diddy.
I will never.
I think let's hook you up with P. Diddy.
No, let's not.
Let's reach out to P. Diddy. I said, we have a new man for you.
No.
I think you'd be good, man. I think you clean up very good. I think P. Diddy will take you to one of his islands, take you to his yacht. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, he'll take you horseback riding. I think you would enjoy that. No. You could jump on the back of the
horse. I could go
horse.
horseback riding without some criminal.
Would you grab
I'm not licking anyone.
Would you grab his waist?
No.
I
would not make physical contact with the guy.
I mean, P. Diddy would
Based
be
on
a
all the
great
gross
friend
crap
of yours.
that he was doing.
I mean, think about it. You get all the vodka you want. You like to drink, right?
I can get vodka that's not involving P. Diddy.
Well, I mean, you can hang out with PD and drink vodka, Hennessy. He'd introduce you to all his friends. I mean, think about it. 50 Cent would be your buddy.
I can buy his vodka without seeing him in
How about Rick
person.
Ross? I mean, TJ Khaled. I mean, he's fat enough. You could jump on the horse with him.
Okay, that's different. He didn't do anything like.
How do you know what he's never done?
Okay, fine, but we know that P. Diddy.
How about if you had P. Diddy in the front, you in the middle, and
No.
DJ Khaled
How about
behind
no?
you? I think that would be an
I
interesting
am not
thought.
making
Big
physical
horse,
contact
man.
with P. Diddy.
I think you need to hang out with P. Diddy. I think. What do you think Speedy would look like in one of the Sean John, boxer briefs? I mean, could you imagine Speedy flexing in a boxer brief? I mean, Speedy, what do you think?
I would look like a pathetic 14-year-old kid that's trying to flex. To impress.
I think you and P. Diddy would be good friends.
Good for you.
I think you need to hang out with him.
No.
I think what we need to do, I'm going to reach out to him.
No.
I'm going on Twitter.
No,
and I'm going to do it tonight. And I'm going to reach out to P. Diddy. I said, I've got the perfect guy for you. He's funny. He's energetic. His name is Speedy. And he's ready to romp you. What do you think?
Disturbing.
Why is it disturbing?
Because of all he's done.
What has he done?
You follow entertainment news. Even me, who doesn't follow that as closely, knows what he did.
Would you hang out with him if
No.
he didn't do that? If he didn't do that, would you hang out with him?
Maybe. I don't know.
So you would hang out with P. Diddy.
Before
99% of the world would too.
So there you go. 99.
Thank you.
So listen to me. I have a question for you because this really means a lot to me. Okay. If P. Diddy came in here in his boxer briefs, okay, and he says, Speedy, I love you. I'm infatuated with you.
I want you to go to a Hawaiian island with me. I'm going to give you $1 million, and I'm going to buy you a Corvette. Would you do it?
No.
Why?
Because of what he did.
What? But what happens if he didn't do that?
Okay, maybe. But
so you would hang out with P. Diddy?
Yeah. If you asked me this 4 months ago before we knew all the crap that he did, yeah. Okay.
But you don't know what he does in his private life.
And I don't want to know.
Well, he might do it with you.
I don't want to know.
What would you think if he jumped on your back and rode you?
That I was getting harassed.
Would you sue him?
No, but I would freak out and run.
Could you imagine him? Where are you running, sir? Where are you running? P. Diddy's after me. They'd be like, where is he? I want to go to...
What are you doing?
Speedy, would you bounce his basketball? Why?
I do not want to make physical contact
No,
with
would you
the
bounce?
man.
Would you bounce basketballs with him?
No.
Why? Why won't you?
If I wanted to bounce a basketball, I wouldn't need to do it with him.
Why not?
Because it is unnecessary.
Why is it unnecessary? He wants
You
to play
can
ball.
dribble a basketball without another help of a second person.
Well, he wants to play basketball with you.
Well, too bad.
He wants you to play with his basketball.
I don't care.
Would you sign his basketball?
No.
For him? You wouldn't.
No.
Why would you?
I am not making physical contact with the man.
But he wants you to sign his basketball.
I don't care.
What, would you play basketball with him?
No.
Would you jam a basketball?
No.
Why not?
I have zero interest in making physical contact with the man.
But you're not contacting him. You're playing basketball with him.
Which involves some level of physical contact.
How is that doing that? Is he touching you?
He could.
Would you grab your ass? Would you let him grab your ass?
No.
Why not?
I am not letting the man make physical contact.
I mean, Ja Rule did.
Okay, let that be his problem.
Would you sing to him? Would you sing him a
No.
lullaby?
No.
What would be?
He's
the
not
lullaby?
getting any positive treatment.
So if he was in jail and you were like his, he was, what do they call them?
Prison guard?
There you go, prison guard.
Conjugal visit.
What would you do to him?
First of all, he working as a prison guard would be the first.
Would you throw
mistake.
piss on him? Would you do that?
No.
What
Second,
would you do? What would you do to him?
I would quit.
Why would you quit? You have P. Diddy over there, and he's saying, "Young sir, come over here. I got to show you something."
Yeah.
He grabs
that's
your
what I'm
crotch,
afraid of.
and he grabs your
That's
crotch.
what I'm afraid of.
What would you do if he grabbed your crotch?
I would freak out because I was in uncomfortable pain and I'm being sexually harassed. I'm going to talk to medical protection.
Would you call the other prison guards to help you?
Yes.
What do you think they do to him?
Hopefully beat him up.
Well, if you saw P. Diddy beating up a girl, what would you do?
I would tell another prison guard to.
No. You're outside and about, and you're there. You're hanging out with him, and you're like, all of a sudden he starts beating up a girl. What would you do? Would you jump on his back?
I would get involved with other prisoners that could beat him
No,
up.
there's no prisoners. You're out and about. You're hanging out with P. Diddy at a restaurant.
Why am I hanging out with P. Diddy?
You're just hanging out with him. You see him. You're hanging out.
I would get institutionalized. No, I would rush him to the hospital.
He invites you to one of his Halloween parties. Okay.
I would decline.
I would decline.
Unless there's invisibility that gets invented, then I'll wear an invisibility cloak. And
I will.
Like Harry Potter.
Yes, right. If that kind of like parallel universe were to happen, where it'd be like a Hogwarts.
How about
thing,
sticking a broom
I
up
would
his
make it
ass?
work.
Would you do that?
No.
Why not?
I'm not making physical contact with.
Well,
the
you're
man.
not touching him.
I don't want to do anything to him.
Well, you are the Wicked Witch, right?
I don't care.
So would you fly him to?
No.
What would you do to him?
Nothing.
You wouldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
You
He's
wouldn't
not getting
hang out
any
with him?
positive treatment.
Would you give him a breath mint?
No.
Why not?
He's freaking rich. He can afford a breath mint.
What Harry Potter spell would you use on him, Speedy?
I don't remember exact names that well to know that.
Hakuna
sorry, I
Matata?
thought you-
How about that? The Hakuna Matata?
I don't remember all the exact names. Sorry.
Finger licker? How about a finger
No, I'm not licking anything.
No, finger a finger licker, you know?
I'm not licking anyone. And that is also
How about flicking the broom? What do you think?
I'm not doing anything.
How about camel of the toe?
What?
Camel of the toe. Would you do that?
I will force a camel to do that, not me.
No, I need you to force the
I
camel
don't have
toe.
camel toes.
Do you know anybody that has a camel toe?
No, because I don't know any camels. They don't exist in this country.
Well, there you're wrong.
Fine, let's say they smuggled in this country. Fine, I can believe that. But you said smothering. Smuggling, but close enough.
Smuggling. Somebody's smuggling a camel toe. How many times have you wiped your ass in a day? Tell me.
I don't know. It's not a routine thing.
Have you ever wiped your ass in a day?
What does that mean?
Have you ever wiped your ass in a day?
I've wiped my ass before, if that's what you're asking. Yes, you didn't have to add in a day.
Well, did you smuggle a chicken and wiped your ass with it?
No.
So you've never wiped your ass with a chicken?
No.
Would you do it if you needed to wipe your ass?
No.
So what would you use if you had nothing to wipe your
Blade
ass
of grass. I'll take my chances grabbing a big chunk of grass and doing it that way. Chocolate's a good flavor.
A blade of grass, he says.
I'll just get a big glob of grass, yank it out of the lawn, and do it that way. I'm not taking my chance with a potentially wild chicken. Carl, there's no need to smuggle grapes. Grapes exist in this country.
Well, do you play with grapes?
No.
You've never played with a grape before?
What do you mean, like toss in your mouth?
Yes, toss.
Yeah, I've done that.
Of course you did. You know how big was the grape?
A regular size grape.
Yeah, regular size. How many did you toss in your mouth?
Successfully, like 3.
3. I figured. I've never knew that somebody had 3 grapes.
You've never seen a bunch of grapes? What do you just when you pick grapes, you just pick them off one at a time? I don't know what stores you go to. Individually packaged grapes.
Oh my, my God. I got one more question for you before we let you go. Okay. This is really, really good. You ready for this?
I don't know.
Now, listen. This is very important. Have you ever used a magnifying glass before?
A while ago, but yeah.
Okay. And what does it do for you?
Makes you see something that's small bigger.
That's right. Okay. So here's the question. Have you ever used something and wanted it to get bigger?
What is it like?
Is there something that you want to see bigger by using a magnifying glass?
Yeah, I did it with as a kid.
Okay. No, not as a kid. Right now, if you can use a magnifying glass to make it look bigger, what would you want to make look bigger?
It has to be something that's like microscopic.
Yes, or it could be anything. Yeah, yours.
No,
could be
I can see it if I.
Well, I'm wondering if you can.
No,
Okay?
I have good vision. No,
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
So you could see it, even in the bushes.
I mean, yeah. Well, again, unless it's like a bug or like a small worm or something.
It might be a small worm.
It might be.
A small worm, really small.
Okay, if it's like I guess maybe a cool color bug or something.
A cool color bug, like what kind of bug?
Something that's rare, like
rare. Yeah,
like
it's a rare worm, right?
Yeah,
rare
something
worm.
like that.
Like a rare worm.
Sure.
What kind of worm? Give me.
I don't know. I'm
What
not
would you
a
call your worm?
scientist. I don't know.
What would you call your worm?
I don't have a worm. I didn't say I invented it.
What would you call your worm?
I didn't invent the worm. I'm talking about one that exists that maybe you wouldn't be able to see normally.
Well, you might not be able to see it, right?
That's the point of rare. You know what the word rare means? No, Carl, I've seen inchworms before. Those aren't rare. All right, Speedy, best place to wipe your butt, Bermuda or Kentucky bluegrass? I would go with Bermuda on that one. I haven't seen a centipede, Carl. I've seen pictures of them, but I don't think I would need a magnifying glass to see that.
Well, you could.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess technically you could. I'm just saying, like,
I think that more of the microscopic organisms that you would be
microscopic
going for,
organisms,
or like I was saying, a rare bug, a rare type of like tiny bird.
Yeah, in a bush, like in a really.
It doesn't have to be in a bush.
It's got to be a jungle.
It doesn't have to.
What happens if it's in
right?
A
It probably originates in a jungle.
Yes, absolutely.
It could be in a tree though. Like it could be.
No,
it could be in a river.
No,
like
no river. It's in a jungle. It's in a hairy jungle.
There are hairy jungle.
A hairy jungle.
What?
A hairy jungle. You got to find it.
No, I don't.
You don't want to look for it in a hairy jungle?
No.
Why?
Because jungles are made of trees and leaves. Leaves and other types of plants are not hairy.
Oh my God, I love it.
Hummingbirds, Carl, are not a bad idea, but I don't know if I would need a magnifying glass to see that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Speedy After Dark. We'll be doing that every single show. He is fantastic as always. Great content, great show. Thank you, obviously, to Jason DiRienzo. He was fantastic. Garret Price as well. They were great. Thank you to all the fans out there for tuning in throughout YouTube and Facebook. We really appreciate Speedy. Really appreciate you too, right, Speedy? How much do you appreciate people?
I appreciate all the ones that listen to our show.
Would you blow him a kiss?
No.
Blow him a kiss.
No.
Just give him a kiss.
I'm not Carlos Rodon.
No, just give him a kiss. Blow him a kiss. You have to blow him a kiss.
I'll do Wes's thing.
Okay.
I'll compromise. I'll do Wes's thing.
What, one in the stink? There you go. All right. That's right.
You sound like a frat boy.
I do sound like a frat boy. But Speedy, you like that, right?
What?
You like it?
Yes, I like doing it. The Wes's Wichita State gesture.
You like that? You like that?
Yes,
that,
it's a good gesture.
That thumb movement, right? You make sure you wiggle it a little bit harder. All right.
I'm trying.
No, do a little bit of it. Do a little bit of with a little hard, a little whapping right there. There you go. Little whap. There you go. Circle. Give it a little circle. There you go. Make sure you're poking. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Speedy Petey. There it is. Anyways, that's it for our show. Round of applause for the great Speedy Petey. He's always great. He's fantastic. Thank you to Fish, as always. He's fantastic. All the graphics, everything that he does, all the hard work that he puts into it. Thank you to Tommy Scoops, always doing the sports minute, enjoying and doing all the sound stuff. It's great.
Enjoy.
There's Jeff being the moron that he is. Listen. Jeff, you can go and hang out, make your money, and shut the hell up. There you go.
Carl, you missed the shocker earlier, so I did it for you this time.
Soak the shocker. Anyways, thank you to all the fans. Listen to 103.9 FM every single Saturday at 7 p.m. Me and Speedy will be doing the Weekend Crunch. Whatever you missed, you'll have the opportunity to listen to it on 103.9 FM. And by the way, if you miss any one of the shows, go to our website, www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Guys, do me a favor. Go and subscribe to YouTube. It's The Sports Loudmouth. Check us out on Spotify. Go on Apple. We're all over the place. And if you don't live here in Long Island, go to LI News Radio on iHeartRadio, and you can tune in and listen to our show on the Weekend Crunch on Saturdays at 7 p.m. So that's it. Thank you to all the fans. We'll be back. By the way, I didn't tell you guys, we're probably going to be doing a show. I'm not sure yet. It might be Monday and Tuesday. I'm not sure. I'm leaving on Thursday. I'm going away for a little bit, for a couple of days. I just need a break. So we might be doing it Monday and Tuesday because Speedy might be doing play-by-play. I don't know for sure. We're kind of working on it. But it's either Monday and Tuesday or Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm trying to figure it out. You guys will know probably by Sunday. So don't worry about it. No matter what, we're going to put the content out. I'm going to make sure that we're going to put 2 shows out. I don't miss a show, and I want to make sure that all the fans get what they're looking forward to. Right, Speedy?
Sure.
There you go. Sure. Make sure you use your magnifying glass tonight, Speedy. All right. He doesn't need it. Anyways, thank you. We'll be back next week. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.